Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is part 6 of What If Itachi was in high school DxD. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. The full moon illuminated in the dark night sky, casting down a lone light upon Kuah town. The streets were silent, with most of the residents having gone to sleep in their own homes. The only light sources in town coming from the light poles in the streets. At a local house, on the wall surrounding the building, a cat had decided to rest. The little black-furred feline curled up into a ball while sleeping on the wall. The cat's ears twitched, catching a sound. The cat opened its eyes. Alerted by this sound, it jumped up and looked to the sky. It gave a hiss and ran off as some black feathers rained down from the sky. "This town, it reeks of devils." The voice of a woman spoke in disgust. "I heard 2 noble devil families claims they own this place." This time it was a man whom spoke, letting out a small chuckle, sounding rather excited. Hovering above in the sky, were 4 shadowy figures, all with a pair of black feathered wings. "Why would Master Cockabile send us out here? 2 devil families could bring a whole lot of trouble." The shortest of the 4 figures, whom sounded like a little girl. "What? You scared of a few devils?" The man gave a mocking snort at the girl. "I ain't scared. I just don't get the point of it. We could wipe them out easily," the girl declared, sounding rather overconfident. "Besides, this place gives me the creeps. I mean, just last year we lost over 100 of our own brethren in the battle against trigonometry. Yeah, and all because those damn devils couldn't deal with this themselves." The older woman clicked her tongue in anger. "Well, it is not like we 3 were there." "But you were, weren't you?" The man looked to the 4th figure that floated before them, and had remained silent this whole time, taking in the memories of her last time here. "It doesn't matter, soon we shall make our mark on this little town. Lord Azazel, Shimonze, and Cockabile shall be pleased." The 4th figure, and the 3rd woman of the group, gave a menacing giggle. She floated in the front of the others, showing her statues as leader of the group. A sly smirk creeped up on her lips, with her violet eyes glancing down upon the unexpecting town. "But first things first, we have a job to do." The 4 of them spread their wings and took flight, vanishing in the blink of an eye. And echoing in the night, the faint sound of a bell coming from a church in the hills. The sound of the church bell was replaced by the sound of school bell. The night being replaced by a sunny morning in Kuah Academy. "Annie, Chiron-chan. Oni-chan is bored." Kurika sat on the grassy field, hugging the short white-haired Konako from behind while resting her chin on her head. "Oni-sama, you are cutting into my snack time." Konako, also known as Chiron, blushed a little out of embarrassment over Kurika hugging her like this in public while holding onto a bag of chips. Naya, let Oni-chan charge up her Chiron energy. Or else she will laze around all day." Kurika snuggled up with Konako, rubbing her cheek up against the top of her blushing little sister's head. Baka." Konako pouted, seeing people beginning to whisper while looking at them. The girls looking in awe over their close sibling bond, and the boys wishing they were in Konako's place and some wishing they were in Kurika's place. "Ah, Chiron is just so cute." Kurika squealed inside while letting out a small giggle. Further away sat Raven, resting under a tree while reading a book. "Wonder if Itachi detected what happened last night? I should probably go and inform him about it just in case after school." Raven was dressed in the standard Kuah Academy girls' uniform. Having joined the academy a few weeks after the events with Trigon and his army. Now being a 2nd year along with Kurika. Elsewhere, sitting at a bench playing 5-finger fillet with a purple-colored blade, was Jack the Ripper, the little white-haired girl staring with her bored yellow piercing eyes at the blade, moving it at incredible speed between the space of her fingers. "You know, people think you are strange playing this kind of game." Damien, dressed in a janitor's outfit, while tying up a black trash bag, looked to Jack, seeming a little concerned. "We don't care. Jack replied and kept her focus on the knife at such speed that it moved like a blur. She then halted and threw the knife stabbing into the table, showing her hand to Damien, revealing not a single injury on her hand. Besides, it's not like we're careless enough to get hurt. Didn't Itachi tell you to stop with the whole we thing at school? You might not be a single person, but everyone else finds it strange you referring to yourself as we rather than I, not to mention you still haven't stopped calling him mommy. Damien looked with a blank bored face. But, he is our mommy. Jack replied, to which Damien's sweat dropped, feeling sorry for Itachi. We wish to be with mommy, yet he averts us. Jack pouted, picking up her knife and sending it into another dimension. With the old man, the ghoul, and Bob gone, we need to look after mommy. Well, it's not like Harry isn't coming back. He just went overseas to compete in a cooking contest is all. And Bob and Ito are still in town, they just decided to move out from the mansion. Damien replied, as in the span of the last year, both Ito and Bob, feeling uncomfortable at such a large mansion, moved out, deciding to get their own places in town while attending college. Still, Itachi is rather carefree when it comes to us, letting us roaming around doing what we please, as long as we do a few jobs for him from time to time. Itachi wasn't one for forcing anyone to follow orders, but would gladly take charge and lead them on the battlefield. So, Itachi has pretty much let everyone in his peerage go and do what they want as long as they remained loyal to him, and pulled their weight around by doing summoning requests and such. And even though the group was sort of split, they would all gather together upon Itachi's request anytime and anywhere. They also meet up once a week at the mansion on the VIP floor for a weekly meeting and status update. Speaking of the young Satri heir, he was at the moment paying a little visit to the Occult Research Club for a game of chess with his fellow devil and childhood friend Rias, with Akeno watching them form the side preparing tea. Itachi, are you sure this is okay? You letting your peerage being this scattered? I mean, Ito and Bob live almost on the other side of town. And with Harry overseas, aren't you being a little too carefree? HN? Oh, it is fine. It's not like I can't summon them on a whim whenever I want. Besides, the town has been rather quiet ever since Trigon was defeated. Stray devils have been less common, summoning requests have gone down considering how many devils there are in town. Life has been rather peaceful these past few months. I want them to enjoy it as much as me. Heck, it is so peaceful that even you leave town every now and then. Itachi played around with a pawn piece in his palm, casting a glance at Rias at the mentioning of that last part. Clearly curious as to what that was about. For the past year, Rias would on occasion go to the underworld for training with Surtsks. She hasn't even told Akeno or Itachi about any of this. What? Worried someone is taking me away? Rias playfully teased Itachi. Itachi smiled a little at that, while placing his pawn piece down onto the board. No. It's not like we are dating, so those kinds of things wouldn't worry me anyway. Oh? So you are saying if we were dating you would have been worried? How sweet. Rias dodged the subject and made her move with her knight piece on the board, taking down Itachi's pawn. Itachi decided to lay the subject to rest, knowing someone as stubborn as Rias wouldn't budge that easily. Although he knew she has been out training, which was fine with him. That battle with Trigon must really have woken her up, he really admired the resolve she had gotten from that. Itachi just didn't know who was training her or if she was training by herself. And Rias dodged the subject, wanting to surprise Itachi once she felt she had made some real progress in her training. Although since her brother was busy with a lot of work, her training time with him was limited. And checkmate. Rias declared, having surrounded Itachi's king. She beamed with pride and slight disbelief that she actually won. Huh? You've improved on your tactician skills as well, I see. Itachi looked proud at Rias for having improved so much since last time. Although he went a little easy on her, not that he was going to tell her that. Sana herself had beaten Itachi a few times as well in chess by now. Rias had won 2 times against Itachi while Sana had won 4, and Itachi had won over them a total of 87 times each. Ah, that was fun. Rias stretched her arms, with a visible look of happiness over Itachi having complimented her. Shall we go again? Rias halted herself from speaking, beginning to sense something. Curious, she went towards the source. She looked out her window and saw 3 boys bickering amongst themselves. Rias opened the window, and the loud voices of the boys reached them in the club room. I didn't even get my turn to peek at them. Why did I get beaten up? The boy in the middle with brown hair questioned, giving the other 2 a painful stare. Did you at least get to see any nip? A boy with black hair and glasses smirked at the brown-haired boy. And the third boy, whom was bald, gave the brown-haired boy a comforting clap on his back. No. I didn't get to see any nip because of you assholes. The brown-haired boy stood up, looking ready to beat on his 2 friends for ditching him. Although he halted, having spotted Rias looking on them with a cool stare. She noticed the brown-haired boy staring at her in awe like most boys in the academy did. Something wrong? Itachi walked up behind Rias while looking out the window. Rias flinched a little, spooked over not having noticed Itachi approach her. She turned to him and smiled. Oh no, everything's fine. She smiled at Itachi lovingly, to which he felt like glares of death dug into his soul. He looked down, seeing the 3 boys Rias were looking at him with a look of jealousy and spite, like most boys in school whenever they saw him around Rias or any of the other girls. Although, Itachi did notice what, or rather whom, distracted Rias, and he could see why. Itachi glanced onto the boy with the brown hair in the middle, sensing a powerful aura emitting from his arm. A sacred gear, huh? Itachi and Rias walked away from the window, and Itachi closed it behind them. While the 3 boys still looked to the window, the third one, being Issei Hyuta, gritted his teeth in jealousy. The heck was that about? Was he mocking me? Issei questioned, having mistaken Itachi looking at him as a sign, saying he would never get a girl like Rias. That was Itachi Shidori, a 3rd year. And the most popular guy in school. From what I heard, he was the first boy to start here. The one with the glasses, known as Moto Hama, revealed to his friends. Yeah, but that chick. Who, man, she's smoking hot. The bald one, Matsuda, declared. True that cool stare of hers and that red hair. Issei uttered with a faint blush at the memory before Itachi got in the picture. I hear that they are a thing. Moto Hama revealed, crushing Issei's fantasy and having it replaced with Rias having her arms wrapped around Itachi, whom looked down on him with a mockingly smirk. Nah, I heard him and Korka from our class is a thing. Matsuda revealed, to which Issei fell to his knees. Why is it always the good-looking ones that are lucky? Issei cursed all pretty boys in the world. Actually, now that I think about it, there are a lot of rumors about the guy, like he is dating Rias Gremory, Kurika, and her sister Konako, Akeno Himejima, and even that goth girl Rachel Roth from our class. Matsuda explained, Rachel Roth being Raven's alias in the human world. Not to mention the adorable Jack-chan is super close to him. Moto Hama cried tears of jealousy. Damn him. Issei's eyes burned with a fiery jealousy. The flames in his eyes vanished, however, as he remembered a word Matsuda said earlier. Wait, rumors. If they are just rumors, then how do we know if they are true or not? Oh come on, look at the guy. You saying if you were a chick you wouldn't fall for that? Matsuda replied, to which Issei's sweat dropped. Think that says a lot more about you than him. Issei uttered, looking dumbfounded. No. Arg, you know what I mean. Relax dude, we all know you are all about them tits. Issei began laughing at his friend's antics, having almost forgotten what they were fighting about in the first place, almost. That said, don't you assholes dare and ditch me again to save your own skin. Meanwhile, back in the club room, Itachi peeked from the corner of the window down at the 3 boys. His Sherry Nan focused on Issei, trying to see what kind of sacred gear laid hidden within him, and what he saw made him look intrigued. He saw a giant sleeping red dragon. Who was that boy? Rias asked her queen. The one in the middle. Akeno asked, to which Rias nodded. Akeno put her hand to her chin and hummed, trying to remember the name. I think he is a second year, his name is Issei Hyudu. He and those other two are the notorious perverted trio that have been peeking at girls changing. Itachi added to the explanation. They are a part of the same class as Raven and Kurika. Issei Hyudu? I see, what do you think about him? Rias looked to Itachi for his opinion, already being aware where this was heading. He is weak, not very bright, acts on his perverted nature too much. But Itachi looked at the boys as they began leaving, vanishing from his sight. But Rias smiled, eager to hear the rest of his answer. With a sacred gear like that, he does show potential. Itachi said, thinking back on the likes of the Toad Sage Jiraiya and Naruto from his previous life. Despite being not the very brightest and slightly perverted, those two rose to heights beyond what anyone would have imagined for them. Who is to say the same wouldn't apply to this Issei Hyudu? I assume you have found a potential peerage member candidate in him then. Perhaps, I need to confirm what kind of sacred gear he has first before making a move. That aura seemed way too unpredictable. Rias replied, summoning forth her remaining pieces. A bishop, a rook, a knight, and 8 pawns. You've been surprisingly lazy in gathering peerage members. Itachi commented, seeing the number of pieces. Well, I can't just pick anyone. I need to think of the benefit it will bring my household. Rias replied, glancing down into her evil pieces, retracting them back into a magic circle. I will have Konako follow after him and see what kind of a character he is. And see if she can find out about his sacred gear. Her senses are the greatest in my peerage after all. I will make sure to inform her about it. Akeno gave a bow to Rias, and went to find Konako and brief her on the situation. Thank you, Akeno. Rias thanked her closest friend. Well, I already have a full set, so I won't get in your way. Itachi was about to sit back down, but was interrupted by his crow familiar appearing and landing onto his shoulder, whispering something into his ear. Seems I need to be going. Itachi headed out with Akeno. Summoning request? Or stray devil? Rias asked. Summoning request. Itachi replied and walked out the door with Akeno, leaving Rias alone with her thoughts and the chessboard. HN? Wait a minute. Rias looked at the chessboard and noticed something. Damn, he went easy on me. Rias pouted, seeing something Itachi easily could have avoided and a mere 4 moves later would have won the match. While walking down the hall, Akeno giggled at the thought of Rias' reaction after discovering Itachi went easy on her. I think you are in deep trouble, Itachi-kun. HN. Itachi blinked his eyes in confusion upon that statement. Let's just say she'll demand a rematch the next time you see her. Akeno giggled and went on ahead, leaving Itachi to process that thought in his head. Well, what do you know, they noticed that tiny fluke. Itachi uttered to himself, thinking he had made that casual mistake of his subtle enough so that Rias and Akeno wouldn't notice. It's not like I went that easy on her. I didn't even notice that fluke until after I made it after all. Guess I was way too relaxed after all. Itachi vanished through a blue magic circle, off to complete a summoning request from a frequent summoner. In a small simple tea shop at the edge of town, sat an old woman, humming in a gentle tone, awaiting her visitor. And from a blue brilliant light he arrived. Miss Yumiko, it's a pleasure to be of service to you once again. Itachi greeted the old frail woman, whom smiled upon seeing the young samurai heir. Itachi-kun, right on time as usual. The old woman supported herself up with her cane, holding her available hand onto her aching back. I'm sorry for always having to rely on you like this. No trouble at all. This is my job after all, Yumiko-san. Itachi dressed himself in a white apron, while holding cleaning supplies in his hands. You just rest your back, I will get to cleaning and then we can discuss payment. Discuss? I may be old, but my memory is as sharp as ever. You would want your usual payment, right? The old woman headed into the kitchen despite Itachi trying to protest. Now, my back might hurt but I can still make our special dango set. I would feel bad just sitting there watching you do all the work. The old woman gently smiled at Itachi, to which he gave in and smiled back. Guess you win again, Yumiko-san. Just wait and I will have the whole shop spotless. Itachi went to clean the shop, dusting off the old shelves, mopping the floor etc. while Miss Yumiko watched from the kitchen counter while preparing her special homemade dango. This all started 10 months ago. Itachi had gone to her shop one day and fallen in love with the dango. He also noticed that the old woman Miss Yumiko had trouble with her bad back. So, he had left a summoning flyer amongst with his payment one day. And the very next morning he had been summoned. She was shocked at first to discover devils actually existed, but even more shocked that someone who was a devil could be so kind. Every now and then, she would summon Itachi to help her clean up her shop, unable to do so with her aching back. Her husband, whom usually did the cleaning, had died just last year. And her remaining living relatives lived further into the country. Her own kids would visit every now and then, but mostly she was alone. Once Itachi had finished cleaning, she brought him her special dango set. They sat down outside of the shop having a cup of tea with the dango. I am grateful for all your help, Itachi-kun. I'm happy I could be of help to you, Yumiko-san. And I am thankful for having such delicious sweets close by. Itachi and Yumiko both shared a laugh. So, how is everything with those lovely girls I keep hearing you talk about? Yumiko sounded like a noisy grandma wanting to see if her grandson had a girlfriend yet. Heh, everything is rather peaceful. They are all working rather hard in their own ways. Rias grows stronger every day, and tries to hide away the fact that she is training for some reason. I'm just glad she has found something to strive for. Some of them are a little rather needy, especially Jack. She doesn't like being separated from me, although it has gotten better lately. Kurika is trying to improve her relationship with her little sister, which is nice, although Konako is rather shy about it, which is cute. Raven is still getting used to things, and has a little difficulty opening up to others. But she is good heart deep within. Akeno is still the same, she has her problems she is trying to solve, yet despite it still keeps smiling. Ito, well, she is the only one I'm not so sure about. She moved out recently and got her own place. Whether it was out of being uncomfortable staying in a mansion, or something else she doesn't want the rest of us to know, I have no idea. Itachi clenched his hands a little at the thought of Ito, and quickly reverted back to his usual self, not wanting to bring someone like Miss Yumiko into that mess. Sorry, I went on rambling there. Miss Yumiko had smiled the entire time Itachi was talking, and didn't seem fazed by it at all. It's okay, it's nice to have someone to talk to for once. Don't worry about it. It must be nice to be young, how I envy your youth. Itachi gave a nervous laugh at that comment. It was nice, having someone to talk to. Someone as old as Miss Yumiko, someone he could be more open to than others and be comforted. Miss Yumiko managed to get him talking about his friends and the girls one day, when for a split moment it felt like he was talking to a nice old grandma, like all problems in the world had simply vanished from his mind. Ever since, she had been giving him advice on how to deal with things. Like if he upset some of them, how he would apologize, and amongst other things. She was just a nice frail lonely old lady, she had truly been like a grandmother to him for these past months. Seeing as his actual grandmas were dead before he was born, both in this life and his old one. Miss Yumiko is the closest he has had, even resembling having a grandma. Time had passed and it was time for Itachi to take his leave. Well then, Miss Yumiko, until next time. Itachi gave her a polite bow, and she merely smiled to him and handed him a bag. "What is this?" "An extra bag of dango. Consider it a gift from this old woman." "Thank you." Itachi bowed one more time out of gratitude. "I will be sure to stop by soon." Itachi prepared his jump through the magic circle. "Take care, Itachi-kun. Until next time." Yumiko waved the young man farewell, as he vanished through the blue brilliant light. Meanwhile, the young white-haired Nikomata, Konako had been following after Issei Hyudo upon the request of her master. So far, she wasn't impressed. Sure, his sacred gear held great power, but putting such power in the hands of a fool would do little good. Not to mention he fell for the seduction of a disguised fallen angel. Who agrees to date a girl he has just met anyway? Someone desperate, that's who. Amano Yuma, huh? Konako looked at the black-haired violet-eyed girl running across a bridge. Clearly fake. Konako judged and headed back home to report to Rias. Itachi had just returned to the mansion, ready to call it a day. Only when he arrived, he was met by Raven. "Good, you're finally here." Raven greeted with her usual stoic composure. "Something wrong?" Itachi asked, finding this rather unusual. "I have sensed strange activity around town recently. Something is going on." Raven reported, to which Itachi narrowed his gaze, having felt something was off lately. "I figured as much. Have you informed the others?" Itachi asked, to which Raven gave a nod. "Very well, make sure to keep an eye out. Don't do anything rash before we know who and what we are dealing with here." Itachi ordered and headed to his room ready to rest. The next day came, and Issei Hyudo, whom for some unknown reason was asked out by a beautiful girl. Yuma, Amano Yuma, that name sent shivers in his body. Excited for the day he would finally lose his V card. Carefully planning out their upcoming date in an attempt to make it perfect, and make sure nothing could go wrong. And of course, bragging and showing off to his best friends Matsuda and Motohama. He was so excited he woke up earlier than usual, went to the place they were supposed to meet an hour earlier. There he stood, anxious, nervous, hoping this all wasn't some cruel prank Yuma had to make fun of him. He was so worried, that when it had only been 5 minutes past the time they decided to meet up, he began sweating a little. "Issei." The angelic voice of his sweet Yuma called out to him, and she came running up to him. "Sorry that I'm late. Did you wait long?" "Oh, no, I just got here." Issei lied, while thinking he sounded so cool saying that line. A line he had dreamed of saying to a girl forever. Their date began, they went into town for shopping and taking a bite to eat. Issei trying to act like a gentleman and avoiding looking at her bouncing big soft boobs, and trying not to look down her shirt to see her cleavage. It was a struggle. He struggled keeping his boy down once he accidentally peeked at her boobs as she was eating ice cream. So far, so good, she hadn't run away screaming or anything, and she didn't seem creeped out at all. The sun was beginning to set, and they went to the final destination of their date, a park by a fountain. They were walking next to each other, they stood so closely to each other that their hands brushed off against each other. Issei gulped down his nervous, anxious feeling. This is my shot to make a move. Issei thought, nervously reaching his hand out. Come on. Come on. Don't chicken out now, you idiot. Issei thought to himself, and gently grabbed a hold of her hand. Yuma responded with a gasp, and a faint innocent blush. Yet she didn't pull her hand away, which Issei considered an achievement in his books. I'm touching her. Issei was lost in a happiness of bliss, although he was taken out of that bliss when Yuma suddenly pulled herself loose and ran to the water fountain, turning around to face Issei. Smiling, like she had got what she needed, or found it. Can I ask you a question? In honor of our first date, there is something I would like you to do. Yuma approached Issei steadily, his heart began beating faster, thinking he would possibly get to kiss her. Of course, you can ask me anything. Issei declared with excitement. Would you die for me? Yuuma's eyes went cold, filled with killing and malicious intent. Issei looked dumbfounded at this, blinking his eyes in confusion. What was that? I don't think I heard you right. In hopes of having heard wrong, he decided to play dumb. I want you to die for me. Yuuma repeated, whispering in his ear followed with a menacing giggle. Yuuma then transformed, her clothes exploding before his eyes, his focus instantly falling to those giant bouncy boobs. She grew a latex BDSM outfit barely covering anything of her sexy body. Considering how childish and dumb you are, this certainly has been fun. And thanks for the gift, very sweet. The fallen angel looked to the pink frilly bracelet around her wrist. Even so, die. She formed a light spear, and threw it into the petrified Issei's gut. His eyes widened and gaping with blood gushing out from his stomach as the light spear vanished. I'm sorry, but the fact is that you were far too great of a risk to us. If you want to blame someone, blame him for giving you that sacred gear. Yuuma looked down upon Issei laying in a puddle of his own blood. Why Yuuma? Issei uttered. Yeah, obviously that's not my real name. Yuuma Amano. I based that name off of my own dead siblings. My little sister Yuuma and my little brother Aman. Both killed, by devil demonic filth. For a moment the fallen angel snarled in a venomous tone, before returning with a sadistic grin. Anyway, thanks for the date, it was fun. She flew off into the sky, leaving a few feathers falling down around the dying boy. All he could think about, was how much of a bitch she turned out to be. Yet he also felt confused, why did she do this? Why did he have to die like this? All he could think of as he gazed into his own bloody palm was the red-headed beauty Rias Gremory. To which, a red light erupted before him, and out came the very woman he thought of. Seems I am too late. Rias uttered looking down onto the dying Issei. I will not let you die today. From this day on forth, you shall live your life for my sake. Rias declared spreading out her devil bat wings, being the last thing Issei saw before everything went black and he lost consciousness from losing all that blood. The very next moment, he woke up the sound of his own alarm clock, like everything had just been a crazy dream. Meanwhile, Ria sat down with Itachi scolding him for holding back against her in chess the other day. You know I don't like it when you hold back. If I don't beat you when you are giving it your all, then what's the point? Ria scolded Itachi, whom looked with a sweat drop. To be fair, I actually didn't hold back all that much. I just lost focus for a bit and made a fluke. Itachi tried to calm down the situation. Rias looked at him with a faint blush. I wanted to impress you by beating you. Rias muttered in a whisper-like tone, yet Itachi caught up on it. But you have impressed me. Itachi stated, making the red-headed princess widen her bright blue eyes while her face almost resembled the color of her hair. Look, I will take you up on a new chess match. And this time I won't hold anything back. He truly was intrigued at just how much progress she had made in this past year. Very well. Ria smiled a little, and then decided to change the topic. Anyway, I have recruited Issei Hyudo as a part of my peerage. Plan to introduce him to the whole devil thing tomorrow. I have also ordered Konako to watch over him until then. Oh, I see. A piece of advice, guys like him won't grow stronger without a motive. If you want to help him grow, help him find something to strive for other than losing his virginity to a pretty girl. Itachi got up and headed out to go on another summoning request from Miss Yumiko. I will keep that in mind. Also, there is something you should know. Rias was however interrupted by Raven suddenly entering the room. Raven, what have you found out? Itachi prepared a magic circle, ready to complete another summoning from Miss Yumiko. While Raven gave him her report on that suspicious activity she had been investigating. Fallen angels have infiltrated the town, without permission or pre-warning. This could lead to some declaration of war, seeing how the current relationship is with devils and fallen angels. Huh, guess you already now know. Ria said, to which both Raven and Itachi looked to her, wanting a further explanation. My newest recruit Issei was killed by a fallen angel before I got to him. This doesn't sound like something Azazel would order. Must be the doing of someone else within the Grigori faction, perhaps Cockabile. He has always been disappointed at how the war ended and wished for it to continue. Itachi analyzed the situation. He truly hoped that the peace could last longer. We'll discuss what sort of action to take to this when I return. In the meantime, make sure that everyone else knows of the current situation. I will, although I suspect some may already know. Raven saw Itachi off, as he vanished through the magic circle. I just hope we can stop things from getting way too out of hand. Itachi arrived outside of the old tea shop, ready to begin his daily assignment for Miss Yumiko. Although he had a bad feeling, usually Yumiko would be out greeting him by the front door. He walked in, maybe she was unable to get up due to her back. Itachi walked in. Miss Yumiko, it's Itachi, I'm Itachi halted as a familiar unpleasant scent reached him. The smell of iron, the smell of blood reeked all over the shop. He looked to the corner and widened his eyes upon what he saw. 3 men, all dressed in black robes and hoods covering their faces. All wielding swords made out of pure angelic-like light. And laying on the floor before them, was the mangled corpse of Miss Yumiko. Any sinner who dares seek help from a devil, deserves punishment. One of the men declared, and they all turned to face Itachi. End of the line, devil. Itachi's gaze focused upon the mangled bloody corpse of the old woman, whom had been like a grandmother to him. A woman whom had shown him nothing but kindness, a frail lonely woman unable to even hurt a fly. Laid dead, in a pool of her own blood. The sound of the sadistic laughter of the men reached his ears, to which his gaze turned up towards the 3 men. Exorcists. Itachi snarled with venom behind his voice, his eyes turning bright red, morphing into the Sharingan. Elsewhere, Issei walked in the very same park he took Yuma to in the middle of the night. Confused by all of this, what happened with Yuma didn't feel like a dream, neither did the pain of whatever Yuma used to kill him with. Yet no one remembers her, and her contact information wasn't in his phone anymore. Then the whole thing with Rias, it was all so confusing. He even bailed out on watching those cultural videos, as they call them, with his friends earlier. He walked up to the water fountain where he was killed last night. Reflecting on what happened, what Yuma said. Trying to make some sort of sense of it all. Then an ominous feeling leaked in the air, breaking his train of thought. Issei turned around, his very being trembling with fear. I must say, it is rather unfortunate, to run into you, that is. It was a man dressed in a grey trench coat with a fedora, his hair was black and his eyes piercing blue. Issei, without knowing, took a giant leap backwards over the water fountain. What the? I meant to step back, not jump. Issei thought, looking confused as to why he was able to jump so far. Oh, looking for a way to run? How pathetic, I can't stand such cowardice. The man glared at him, causing Issei to run in fear. The man spread black feathered wings from his back and flew after the boy. This can't be real. Issei uttered in shock as the man landed before him, wielding a spear of blue light. Since you show no sign of vanishing, or any magic circle being deployed, I shall assume you are nothing but a mere stray, then killing you shall be no problem. The man raised his spear, only to feel a sharp jabbing pain to his chin. Ey. It was the young Konako, delivering an uppercut punch to his chin. She rotated her body and gave a kick to the man's gut, sending him skidding backwards. Huh? You are Konako Tujao. Issei looked astonished that a little girl had such strength. Are you one of his comrades? Filthy devil, this isn't good. The man growled and took charge at the little girl, jabbing his spear of light forward. Konako stepped sideways and dodged, grabbing onto the man's wrist and delivering an elbow strike that he effortlessly caught. What ridiculous strength, you must be a rook. Konako broke free from his hold and jumped backwards. Konako sprinted towards the man, delivering a set of punches and kicks that the man deflected with his spear of light. Not bad, you got some moves, little girl. Konako aimed low with her punches, yet the fallen angel blocked them all. He then kneed her in the face, and slapped her across to Issei. Hey, you okay? Issei called out, petrified by fear and unable to move to her aid. Just warming up. Konako charged back towards the man, whom split his spear of light into two swords of light. Heh, I like you. You got spunk. The man smirked and charged towards Konako, only to be interrupted by a strange red wave of darkness. Nice job, Konako. Rias and Akeno both arrived through a magic circle to their aid. You did well, protecting our newest recruit. Rias praised Konako, while Issei looked dumbfounded at all this. Only one thing went through his mind, what the hell is going on? That red hair, damn fun's over. The man sighed and retracted his swords of light. So, he is one of yours then. That's right, and who might you be? Other than a fallen angel. Rias confronted, flaring up in a dangerous aura. Issei felt as if he had fallen under a ton of pressure, and it all came from the pure power Rias released. He couldn't believe it, he was beyond overwhelmed by this powerful aura. My name is DxD. I pray we never meet again, Miss Gremory. For your own sake. DxD declared before taking flight at full speed, forced to retreat despite clearly not being afraid and actually looked intrigued to fight Rias. He vanished in an instant. Are you okay? Rias looked to the shocked dumbfounded Issei, whom couldn't believe he got out of that alive. Why yeah thanks. Issei stuttered, not sure what to think or make of the situation. Good, now head on home. I will send someone to fetch you tomorrow after school. Then I will see if I can explain things to you, later. Rias looked to Issei with those cool eyes and a smile, as she, Akeno and Konako all vanished in a brilliant light. The confused perverted stared in awe for a second, before doing as told and headed home, or more like ran home. Back to the old run-down tea shop, the walls were stained in red blood. 3 mangled corpses laid massacred on the floor, same with the old woman Yumiko. The entire once peaceful shop was stained in blood. And standing alone in the center of the room, stood Itachi. Holding a bloody stained kunai knife in his hand, stares only in sadness as he looks down upon the mangled corpse of Miss Yumiko. Forgive me, if only I had acted upon Raven's warning sooner. Itachi clenched his fists, deactivating his Sharingan, and gazing down on the mangled body with his black eyes looking down in pity. Cursing himself for not acting on that warning sooner. Rest in peace, Miss Yumiko. Itachi bowed his head in respect for the old woman, mourning the loss of a good friend. He turned his back on the bloody scene, his eyes looking emotionless and cold. Not saying another word before he vanished through a blue magic circle. Meanwhile, on the very far outskirts of the underworld, in the fallen angel territory, there was a castle on top of a hill, and deep within that castle was a throne room of sorts. A red carpet leading all the way from the throne to the door on the other side of the room. The door opened, and in walked a young man dressed in a butler's outfit. He walked up to the throne at the end of the room. There sat a tall dark figure, gently swinging onto a glass of red wine in his hand. The butler kneeled before the man in the throne. It is as you wished, Lord Kakabile. Lady Rainare and her group have infiltrated Kuah town, and the girl with twilight healing has just arrived as well. The dark man known as Kakabile let out a satisfied chuckle. Pleased at the report given to him by his servant. Splendid. Soon everything will be set in place. And we fallen angels shall claim our rightful place at the top. Tell me, how are things coming along with Valpa? Things are going according to plan, both projects are well underway. The butler replied, much to the joy of his master. Good, at this rate the Holy Sword project, and the Fallen Arch project will be completed on schedule. Everything is going accordingly, exactly as I planned. The pale skin of Cockabille's face was barely visible through the darkness of the room. His red eyes and yellow pupil glowing like a light bulb in the darkness. His white fangs of teeth also visible from his devilish smirk as he took a sip of his red wine. A meeting was taking place within the old school building. Using the Occult Research Club to hold the meeting, hosted by Rias and her peerage. Itachi and Sana had gathered accompanied by their loyal queens Kurika and Tsubaki. Itachi had also brought his bishop Raven. Killing our clients? Sana questioned, looking to her brother whom seemed on edge. So, it seems. A few stray exorcists executed one of my clients just because she asked help from a devil. Itachi clenched his hands, looking angered by the death of Miss Yumiko. You think this is related to the fallen angels? Rias held her hand to her chin, trying to connect the dots to the situation. Normally fallen angels wouldn't dare to enter devil territory simply to kill a few clients and stir up trouble. Well, unless they were stupid and had a death wish. Yeah, I searched their bodies in case I could find any leads. I found this. Itachi tossed a piece of paper onto the table, and both Sana and Rias exchanged it to take a look at it. A list of our clients' addresses. Rias clicked her tongue in frustration over how well informed these exorcists were. At least half of my peerage's standard clients are on this list. Mine too. Sana rubbed her temple over how troublesome this was getting. We have to protect them somehow. Our movements around town will be limited. They will have more free space and time to act on. They might even be able to pick off our weakest links one by one. We don't even know how many fallen angels there are to begin with. Itachi analyzed the situation, creating a magic circle showing a holographic map over the entire town. What's more, the list here shows, the clients are scattered across town, leaving at least half the town unguarded. Plus, even with our familiars we will barely be able to protect everyone. They picked these specific clients as targets for a reason, to keep us scattered and spread. Were you able to figure out anything else? Sana asked. Sadly no, I let the spur of the moment get the best of me. Killed them all before I could get answers. Itachi cursed himself for that mistake, letting his emotions get the best of him. I don't blame you, I'm sorry, Ani-sama. Sana gave a saddened look to her brother, same with Rias, whom also gave him a comforting pat on his leg. I think most of us would have reacted the same way. Rias comforted, and Itachi gently grabbed a hold of Rias' hand on his knee. Thank you, both of you. But I need to make it up for Miss Yumiko by making sure we put a stop to this. I volunteer to guard the majority of the clients, and force the answers out of those stray exorcists. Itachi was ready to put his old Umbu interrogation skills to use. He made some of the girls shiver with the chilling cold stare in his eyes. I already have my familiars on the job looking over some of the clients. Naya. Kurika replied as small cat markers appeared on the holographic map showing where her familiars were. I've placed some magic spells around the homes of some other clients. If any unwelcomed guests show, I'll know right away. Raven revealed, and purple markers appeared on some buildings on the holographic map. We have also taken certain security measurements. Akeno revealed, to which more markers appeared on the holographic map. Naturally, so have we. Tsubaki revealed. Good, we have a starting plan. Now we just need to capture some of the stray exorcists attempting to kill our clients, and find leads that could resolve this situation. Itachi waved his hand to the left, and the holographic map changed into the face of a pale black-haired man. With long pointy ears, blood-red eyes with yellow pupils. So far the main suspect behind all this is Cockabille. However, we have no evidence to support that he was behind all this. And without solid evidence, there isn't much we can do against a high-ranked member of the Gryagri faction without triggering a war. which will be just what he wants. Our only option is to either find the evidence, or wait for him to personally make a move. Not to mention their base of operation. Sana added, switching the image to an old church. We think this might be it, although without any evidence we cannot enter a house of God without starting even more trouble. Akeno is looking into it. If the church is completely abandoned, then there is a different story. We will be able to eliminate the fallen angels and exorcists without any issues. Rias added in the explanation. Very well then. Everything seems to be in place. We can call this meeting a close. Itachi deactivated the magic circle, and the lights in the room turned on. I shall have my peerage members patrol the town. Let's go, Tsubaki. Sana got up from the couch and headed out with her queen Tsubaki. Well, I still have to focus on my group's newest member for now. I sent Yuato to pick him up. Rias had Akeno prepare the welcome of their newest member, and shortly Konako arrived, having finished her guard duty of Issei. I will get out of your hair then. Kurika, Raven. Let's head back to base and get in contact with Bob and Ito and inform them about this. We shall begin patrol over the clients tonight. Itachi ordered, and his queen and bishop lined up next to him, vanishing in a magic circle. And just when they disappeared, Kiba walked in with a bewildered Issei. What followed that very night was a rather quiet patrol for Itachi, Raven, and Jack, with Damien and Kurika on the other side of town. So, everything went well. Itachi was talking with Rias in his cell phone. Oh yes. He was of course a little overwhelmed and confused at first. As expected, of course. So, what exactly did you tell him? Itachi asked. Just the basics mostly. How we are at a two-front battle against angels and fallen angels. How we do summon requests for humans and form contracts. Feel like I should save the more complicated stuff for later. Such as our current conflict against those fallen angels and stray exorcists. And when he tried to activate the sacred gear of his, he was unable. And? Do you regret recruiting him? Itachi asked, considering the type of character he was, and how he didn't seem to have any particular talent. Why would I regret it? Not all beginners are as natural talented like your bunch. Like you said, just need to find him a motive. Itachi raised his brow, hearing Rias giggle at the other end of the phone call. Something funny. Well, despite you telling me to help him find a non-perverted goal, let's just say he is rather determined. He set himself out on becoming the harem king. Harem king. Itachi looked with a deadpan expression, with a drop of sweat running down his forehead. He got so excited when I told him that one day, he might have his own servants. He took a ton of flyers and went to distribute them right away. I even had him go on his first summoning request. Okay, his goal aside. How did he do on the summoning request? Itachi rubbed the bridge of his nose at hearing that goal. For some reason it reminded him of Naruto. Well, expect it wasn't a noble goal like becoming Hokage. He could still imagine them both screaming out their goals without shame and filled with passion. He hasn't come back yet. Funny thing is, turns out his magic power is so low he can't even use magic circles to transport himself. So he had to ride to the client by bike. I assume you have someone watching over him. Considering the recent attacks on our clients. Of course, Yuato is keeping a close eye on him from a safe distance. Well, knowing you, I should have expected that. No way someone like you would let anyone harm your beloved servants. Itachi had to let out a small chuckle at that comment. He noticed Raven calling for him. I got to go, we seem to have found something. Alright, don't stay out too late. Me and Akeno are making dinner for everyone. I wouldn't miss it. Goodbye. Itachi hung up and went over to Raven and Jack, whom the latter seemed to be tracking something. What is it? Jack claims she can smell, and I quote. Holy stuff. Raven used Jack's simplified version of holy energy or aura. Fallen angel was here, not too long ago. Jack said, holding up a few black feathers that looked too big to be a crow's. Something scared it off. HN. Itachi looked to the distance, detecting something with his Sharingan. I think I see Kiba, and that new guy, Issei Hyudu. Itachi vanished at super speed. Jack followed while Raven flew. Kiba was peeking at the bike riding Issei from a distance, chuckling a little at Issei yelling crap. 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 Over again, seeing as a red gauntlet of sorts had appeared on his arm. Something then touched his shoulder, causing him to swiftly turn around with a sword in hand. Only halting when he noticed it was Itachi, Jack and Raven. Itachi-senpai, please don't sneak up on me like that. Rias really needs to teach you to detect other presences better. If I were an enemy I could have killed you right here and now. So, what happened? Itachi got straight to the point. A fallen angel ambushed Issei-kun on his way back. He managed to scare her off with his sacred gear, and the Grammary emblem on his hand. Kiba flipped open his phone showing a picture of the fallen angel. A blue-haired busty woman dressed in a maroon trenchcoat-like top with a wide-open collar revealing her massive chest, and a matching miniskirt and black-heeled shoes. I see, then we have so far confirmed 3 different fallen angels in town. Did you see the direction she went? Kiba in response pointed to where the fallen angel fled, and Itachi and his group wasted no time and moved out. Jack, can you track her from here? She left a trail of feathers. Must have come off when the new guy surprised her with his sacred gear. Jack analyzed and followed the trail until they reached a crossroads. Raven, can you detect anything? Itachi looked around with his Sharingan, although he was unable to detect anything due to the fallen angel being out of range. No, she got away in a hurry it seems. Probably to report of that Issei's survival to whoever she works for. They continued to search by splitting off, although to no luck. The trail went cold, and sooner or later they had to call it a quits. Itachi was the last one to return home, much to the displeasure of a certain someone. The moment he entered the house, he was greeted by a pouting Rias and Akeno. Both dressed in aprons, and their arms crossed. Itachi looked at a clock on the wall, seeing he probably missed dinner. I'm sorry. Itachi not wanting to argue bowed his head in an apology. Rias let out a sigh. Never mind. We understand you are quite busy and all. And that you want to solve this case as quickly as possible. You auto explained to me how you went out to try and track down that fallen angel woman. She didn't seem mad at all, neither did Akeno, rather they just looked worried. However, we also want you to stay healthy. We have others who can take over your shift in patrolling the streets. Akeno added, and Itachi looked with an apologetic look once more. Very well, I guess you are right. It's just. Itachi uttered as an image of the old Miss Yumiko came to mind, followed up by the scene of her murder. I'm fine. So, are there any leftovers? Or did you guys eat it all? The mood lightened up as Itachi smiled. We saved you a plate silly. Although we'll need to heat it up first. Itachi enjoyed a nice quiet evening with Rias and Akeno, and then went to get at least 5 hours of sleep. Later, that morning with a certain former bounty hunter. Damien yawned, having patrolled all night. He wore sunglasses as his sore eyes felt sensitive to the sun, seeing as he hadn't slept all night. My shift's almost over, then it's Ito's turn to take over. I can't wait to get into a nice comfy bed. He walked past a lot of Kua Academy students heading off to a daily life of school. He let out another yawn, and all of a sudden bumped into someone. Arg, hey watch it. Oh, sorry dude. Damien groggily opened his eyes and saw the newest recruit of the Grammary Peerage, Issei Hyudu. Hey, ain't that? This being his first time seeing the new devil, of course he didn't recognize him. Ah, aren't you that creepy janitor guy that peeks on girls during gym? Issei accusingly pointed at Damien, whom returned it in a slight insulted tone. Oh, that's rich. Coming from one of the perverted trio. Damien instantly jumped into his other more perverted personality. Unlike you, I am a true man of culture. What? How dare you question my devotion to true culture? Sparks flew between the two from the glares they gave one another. Please, you probably side with the fake culture. Damien accused. What do you mean fake? Boobs are the greatest thing known to man. Issei declared. Pht, pathetic, I knew it. Everyone knows the ass is the real deal. Damien looked down on Issei like he was a pathetic excuse of a pervert. Oh, you are so wrong. Boobs is the very first thing that connects to us from birth. It is how we feed as newborns. Oppai is justice, Oppai is life. Despite getting disgusted stares from the public, to the two perverts they stood alone on a battlefield. A battlefield, of culture. You simple feeble-minded fool. You may be a perv, but I'm a mega perv. Damien declared shamelessly. For unlike you, although I'm mainly an ass man, I can appreciate other forms of the female physique. What? Issei stepped back in shock. That's right. I like M big, I like M small. When it comes to ass and tits, Damien likes M all. Damien declared, his sunglasses glinting from the reflecting sunlight. And no way. One should be devoted to the true culture. And that alone. TCH, TCH. Even so, ass remains the true culture. Not that pale substitute you call true culture. Damien declared, to which Issei looked outraged. What are you talking about? Human development, and evolution of mankind. Back when we still walked on all fours, what we had standing before us were the voluptuous buttocks. But when we started walking on all two legs, we stopped having butts stuck in our faces all time. And in their place what appeared before us, was boobs. Women grew larger breasts, to take the place of buttocks. Therefore the original source of life is ass. Boobs are but a mere substitute. Boobs are but a mere pale imitation to buttocks. If you ask whether I prefer the copy or the original, of course I'm going to choose the original. Issei looked as if he had been struck by lightning. Both of them ignoring the whispers of people around them. Mama, look. A little boy pointed and laughed at how silly the two of them looked. Don't look. The mother whispered to her child and walked away. You don't believe me? Then behold my collection of photos. Damien held out his phone, revealing hundreds upon hundreds of pictures. What glorious technique. Issei browsed through the pictures, although something caught Issei's eyes. If you claim to be such an ass man, then what are all these oppai pics for? Issei declared with a triumphantly looking smirk. Heh, still a foolish child after all. Damien zoomed out on one of the pictures, revealing it to be actually buttocks. That's right. The pictures you thought were boobs, were pictures of zoomed-in asses the whole time. To which Issei gaped in shock, sweat pouring down his face. And no way, how could I mistaken? Issei fell to his knees, tears running down from his eyes. It's merely the truth, my boy. You are not the first I have crushed in spirit like this. Loving boobs isn't a crime, but not acknowledging buttocks as the true form of culture should be. Therefore come, Koi, let's explore this world of true culture, together. Damien stretched his hand out, a smile spread across his face. Senpai. Issei cried and smiled back, while reaching his hand out. Kia. A squeal interrupted them, to which they turned to the source and both widened their eyes at what they saw. Ah, I'm such a klutz. Before them were the pure white panties of a girl. Panty shot. Damien quickly took another picture for his collection. Although then he felt someone touching his shoulder, he looked behind him and saw a police officer. Not you again. The police officer sighed, someone having called the police while Damien gave his little speech. "Officer Kosuk, how are you? How are the wife and kids?" Damien sweated a little nervously. "They're fine, man. And look, even though I agree with you on some parts, I still have to do my job, you know." The officer looked to Damien, whom gave an understanding look. "You know the drill. Do your thing, and we can talk in the car." Damien nodded. "Are you okay?" Meanwhile Issei had gone over to help the girl. A long blonde-haired girl with green eyes, what's more she was dressed like a nun. "Yes, thank you." The nun smiled at Issei as she was helped up, then the wind blew her hood away, blowing her long silky smooth blonde hair in the wind, leaving Issei completely awestruck. Issei broke free from his fantasy and retrieved the hood for her. While in the background, Damien was putting on a dramatic act, while being dragged away. "This is a violation of free speech. A violation, I tell ya!" Damien screamed as he was being dragged into the police car. "Koi? I require assistance. I'm a little lost, mind helping me out?" The nun looked to Issei with a slight pleading look, ignoring the cries of Damien as a result. "Why yeah, sure." Issei blushed and had a stupid look on his face, from looking at the nun's cute adorable face. Damien would have yelled traitor, but instead he looked with a manly determined smile while crying anime tears. "I understand, my brother. I wish you luck." Damien gave Issei a thumbs up as he was put into the cop car and taken away. At the academy, Itachi's sweat dropped having gotten a phone call from the police station. "Aha, I see, HN. If I bail you out, I just feel like you won't learn your lesson. So, how about you sit there for a bit and think about what you've done?" As Itachi pulled the phone away from his ear, one could hear the screams of Damien on the other end as Itachi hung up on him. He heard a troubled sigh, and turned around to see Rias had just walked in. "Let me guess. Damien?" Rias asked, considering the events that transpired between their two peerage members. "Damien." Itachi nodded in response. "How do you know?" "I heard he and Issei were talking about the evolution of buttocks and boobs on the way to school. And Issei told me when he got here, along with something else." Rias added, earning Itachi's interests as judging by the serious look she gave him. "It was most likely related to the fallen angel situation." "Go on." Itachi insisted. "Issei ran into a nun, named Asia Argentu. From what he told me, she has a sacred gear. She has recently apparently been sent to work at the local church. The same church we suspect the fallen angels are using as a hideout." Rias informed, as Itachi tried to put the pieces into place. Tried to explain to him about how dangerous it was for him to go there to meet her. "I just hope I wasn't too strict. Sometimes, you need to be firm in how to handle certain situations and do what's best for your servants, even if they don't understand it themselves," Itachi advised, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "What's more, I've heard of another problem we'll have to deal with." Rias looked exhausted at all of this happening at once. "There have been rumors that Razor is plotting something." "Razor, huh? Haven't seen him since the last meeting between young high-class devils. But from what I've heard, he turned out just like I predicted he would." Itachi sighed, having heard that the young member of the Phoenix household had made a harem out of his peerage. And still picked up girls of lower status on the side. "Yeah, now that I look back at it. I remember you were so cool back then. Still don't know how you predicted that though. We were both so young after all." Rias giggled at the memory of a kid Itachi putting Razor in his place with just mere words. "Well, I wouldn't worry. I can handle Razor no problem. Cockabile and his fallen angels is a different story entirely." Itachi chuckled a little. Despite these fallen angel minions being weaker than Razor, it was the political issue that followed with them that made them more complicated to deal with. "Anyway, if he shows up, just leave him to me." Itachi assured while Rias comfortably rested her head on his shoulder, feeling all her troubles being washed away. Baku. Akeno walked in on them, latching herself onto Itachi's back. Akeno. Rias pouted, to which Akeno gave a giggle and backed up, having had her fun. Ara, Ara. I came here because we got reports of a stray devil in town. Akeno revealed, to which Rias instantly jumped up. Very well, let's go. It will be a perfect opportunity to show Issei how devils fight. Let's gather the rest and prepare for battle. Rias declared with enthusiasm. Stray devil? Haven't had those in a while. Anyway, me, Raven and Kurika are going out on patrol tonight. Itachi stretched his arms, haven't been able to rest his body for quite some time. Really reminded him of the old days in the Umbu Black Ops. They then went their separate ways to complete their jobs. A few hours later that night, after having witnessed Rias and the rest of his newest fellow peerage members battle a stray devil, Issei was left in awe, having witnessed something he found unbelievable. A real-life monster, whom had such a smoking hot bod at first, a real shame her lower body was revealed to be that of a monster. He also discovered there was a ranking system of sorts. Rias is the king, Akeno is the queen, giving him some sexy images in his head of the two ladies. Kiba is the knight, lucky bastard, and Konako is a rook, meaning don't mess with her, and then there is him, a pawn. A pawn, the lowest rank in the peerage. He was a long way from reaching his goal of becoming harem king. What is more, on a summoning request, as Konako was double booked. While there he was met with a pool of blood, a dismembered corpse. A sicko of a silver-haired, red-eyed priest named Fried Selzen. And the biggest shocker of the night, a screaming shocked Asia, she also found out he was a devil. What is more, that bastard priest tried to rape Asia right in front of him, and he got his ass kicked by said priest. Before he could get seriously injured, Kiba and the others came to his rescue. Things seemed to be turning for the better the moment Rias Baku stepped in. But then a portal of darkness opened up in the room. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Hope you devil scums are ready for your daily dose of light spears. Fried laughed like a maniac, a laughter that was silenced as Konako threw a couch in his face. Konako, grab Issei, we're leaving. Rias ordered, to which Konako threw Issei over her shoulder. He felt ridiculous being carried by such a little girl. Akeno, prepare to jump us out of here. Right. Akeno formed a magic circle around them, although one thing did not go unnoticed by Issei. Baku. We have to bring Asia with us. Issei declared, seeing the former nun sitting on the side looking at them in awe. Unfortunately, we can't. Only those that are members of my peerage can go through this magic circle. Judging by her tone of voice, Rias felt saddened that they had to leave her behind. But they just couldn't risk a confrontation with the fallen angels just yet. And they couldn't risk it as they didn't know how many of them there were. Could be a couple, which wouldn't be a problem, but there could also be hundreds considering how many supporters Cockabille's got. No. I can't just leave her here. I have to save her. Asia. Issei struggled to break free from Konako's hold, yet to no avail. It's okay, don't worry about me. Asia smiled kindly to Issei, and yet she was crying. Asia. Issei cried out, and the very next moment she was gone, or rather they were gone. Before Issei knew it, they had returned to the club room, and Asia was left behind. Damn it all. Issei cried as Konako put him down, leaving him to punch the floorboards. And the rest looked at him in pity, wondering if they made the right decision or not. Baku. Akeno looked to Rias, whom sighed as Issei stormed out. I have to do what's best for him, even if he doesn't understand it. Rias remembered the words Itachi spoke to her earlier. Odds are that none will be fine for the time being, the fallen angels brought her here for a reason. Rias uttered, hoping that she was right on this. Meanwhile, on a rooftop outside of the very house where Asia was being brought in by Rainare and Kalwerner. On that rooftop sat our half-ghoul Ito, humming as she looked on at the scene. "Why didn't you interfere?" Jack asked, arriving at blinding speed behind the half-ghoul. "Well, if it isn't little Jack-chan, how are you, sweetie?" Ito looked to the little assassin with an innocent smile and a peace sign. "Mommy told you to protect the clients." Jack glared at Ito for not complying with Itachi's request. "Yeah, I know. But you see, I was just a tad little bit too late. And I wanted to see what the newbie had to offer. I'm not impressed, by the way." Ito carelessly looked down at the house, able to see the mangled body of the client through the window, making her lick her lips. "Mommy won't be happy about this," Jack stated, to which Ito didn't even react, knowing full well that he wouldn't. I can deal with Itachi. Besides, I will make it up for him. I'm a good girl after all." Ito gave a small sadistic little giggle. Whether or not she was telling the truth about being too late to save the client or not, Jack had no idea. One thing is for sure, Ito was a strange, unreadable woman. "I'ma go have a little snack." "Don't wait up, Jack-chan." Ito jumped down to the house, seeing as the fallen angels and the exorcist were now gone, she could enjoy her meal in peace. That very same night, at the old rundown church, patrols of stray exorcists walked around the area, blocking the road leading to the church and send away any unwelcomed guests. Sneaking out from the back entrance was Asia, keeping a lookout for any of the exorcists, afraid of what they might do to her, considering what Fried tried to do to her. She couldn't stay here any longer, she knew that. But she also knew if she escaped, she wouldn't be able to run for long. She quickly sneaked into a bush as a guard made his way around the corner on his patrol round. The guard stopped for a moment, and took out a pack of cigarettes. Asia had gone to this bush for a reason, for the very wall behind this bush had a hole in it. A hole big enough for a little girl like her to crawl through. But she couldn't move while that guard was there, unable to risk making too much noise. Asia felt her hand around the ground to see if she could find anything. Her hand grabbed onto a rock. She wasn't strong enough to toss it far, nor strong enough to knock the guard out. She looked to the back door. It was close enough to her to possibly manage to throw the rock at. As the guard was lighting his cigarette, she took her chance and threw the rock into the door, making a loud banging noise. The guard pulled out a gun from underneath his coat and walked to the door. Asia took this opportunity to crawl through the hole, although her skirt caught onto a branch in the bush, making a rustling noise. "Who's there?" The guard turned to the bush. Asia froze with a look of fear, although as if it was a miracle from God himself. A mouse jumped out from the bush just as she pushed through the hole. "Tch. A damn mouse." The guard looked at the little animal in annoyance, and returned to his smoke break. Asia ran through the woods, hopeful that she wouldn't be noticed by anyone. There she goes. A fallen angel girl with blonde hair tied into twin tails, and dressed in a gothic Lolita frilly dress. Her piercing blue eyes looked to the running nun. "Shall we have some fun with her, Middled?" The second figure was the male fallen angel, Donazik. "Yeah, I was getting bored anyway." Middled giggled, and they both took flight after her. While the former nun attempted to make her escape, elsewhere in town rumbling noises came from a house. A table was knocked over as an exorcist was pushed up against a wall with a dark aura restraining him. "Ugh." The exorcist grunted as shadowy waves moved up to his neck, strangling him. "This is the third house tonight." Raven's eyes glowed, while focusing on the exorcist. She was dressed in a black leather jacket with a gray shirt underneath. She also wore a black skirt. "Naya. Rias and Sana are lucky we are protecting their clients as well." Around Kurika laid two knocked out exorcists, and cowering behind her was the frightened client. Out from the shadows walked out Itachi, looking upon the exorcists with an emotionless stare. "This time, I will make sure we get some answers." Itachi walked up to the restrained exorcist, signaling Raven to lower her magic restraints on the man. Now then, why are you going around killing innocent humans? Itachi tightly gripped his hand onto the exorcist's collar. Depending on your answer, your death might be swift or slow. The image of a mangled Miss Yumiko burned into the back of his mind, fueling him with anger. These creatures you call humans abandoned their humanity the moment they relied on you devils. The exorcist snarled with pure venom in his voice. Itachi's glare intensified, to which he grabbed onto the exorcist's wrist, using his normal enhanced devil strength to break his wrist like a twig. The exorcist flinched, holding his screams in and enduring the pain. Now, I don't doubt that. Knowing you stray exorcist's point of view on things. But I know, you are not stupid enough to attack this frequently. Unless there is reason. Itachi pulled out a kunai knife from a magic circle, and pushed the exorcist's arm up against the wall. Let's try this again. The exorcist widened his eyes, feeling the sensation of the cold metal cutting into his middle finger. Ugh! His pupils shrank with blood pouring down his arm as Itachi cut off his finger. Devil scum! He snarled as Itachi moved the kunai to the index finger this time. Why are you going around killing our clients? Itachi asked while pushing the blade up against the exorcist's index finger. Screw you! The exorcist glared, and Itachi in response cut off the next finger. A ringing noise went through his head from the shock. Hey, your nose seems to be rather big. Let's trim that a little, huh? Itachi held the kunai up under the frightened exorcist's nose, pushing the blade up, cutting through just a little. The exorcist was trembling, despite keeping up a brave facade. He truly was afraid. He didn't seem in a talkative mood, so Itachi in a swift move cut the man's nose off. Arg! Itachi released the screaming exorcist from his grasp, to which he held his bloodied three-fingered hand to what remained of his nose. Do you really think this is all worth it? The man merely glared up at Itachi in anger, whom looked down on him with his Sharingan. His eyes not flickering with a single trace of emotion or sympathy. It's your call. There is plenty of things that I can still cut off. And with magic, we can make sure you survive and stay awake through the whole thing. Wait. The exorcist uttered, only to have his body stabbed, his fingers cut off one by one, followed by his toes. His body was lit on fire, his limbs frozen in solid ice and shattered to pieces with a stomp from Itachi's foot. The exorcist held his hands up to his temple, saliva running down his gaping mouth. He fell to his knees, breathing heavily and incoherently. Although then he noticed, he was perfectly fine, his mind was shattered and his spirit broken. But physically he was completely fine. Did you like my illusion? Feels like the real thing, doesn't it? Itachi knelt down to eye level with the frightened exorcist. Itachi could see the fear in his eyes, unable to move with a pool of sweat under him. Now, let's try this again before I start the real torture. And yes, it can be much worse than the last one. And real. It certainly was painful enough for the last other two to commit suicide, unable to bear the mere thought of it. Itachi threatened. We are meant to keep you devils distracted, while our fallen angel masters carry out their plan. I just follow orders. The frightened exorcist spilled his guts, his quivering voice actually feeling genuine. And who gives you those orders? The fallen angels. And no, we take direct orders from Father Freed. And he takes orders from the fallen angels, who again takes orders from their leader. Is that so? And who is Father Freed? Itachi swung his kunai knife around his finger. What does he look like? He's young, silver hair, red eyes, looks and is kinda crazy. Please, let me go, I will leave town, I swear. The exorcist looked with pleading eyes. Itachi still looked emotionlessly at him, his Sharingan fading back into his usual shade of black. the memory of the dead Miss Yumiko still burning strong in his mind. He knew Miss Yumiko wouldn't want Itachi to avenge her. Yet that didn't stop his sense of reasoning. Itachi in a split stabbed the man through the heart, hitting just the right spot to end his life quickly. It wasn't for vengeance, more for insurance that he wouldn't go back to his friends and warn them that they were being hunted. He threw 2 kunai knives stabbing into the heads of the 2 unconscious exorcists around Kurika. Did you really have to kill them? Raven looked upon the corpses of the exorcists, seeming uncomfortable with this act. Had to be sure that they wouldn't warn their higher ups about us. We need to find out if Cockabile is really behind this. If he's not, it could cause a lot of problems with the already unstable relationship between our factions. Itachi declared, while Kurika disposed of the corpses and cleaned away any evidence. Make sure he doesn't remember anything either. Itachi pointed to the frightened client, and Raven complied, erasing this whole mess from the client's memory. Now, find this Freed. Itachi ordered as they all vanished into separate magic circles. The full moon shined in the night sky over Kua town. The sound of someone sprinting through the street went like an echo through the alleyways. Heavy, panicked breaths came from the blonde former nun, Asia Argentu. In the back of her mind was the scene of a dismembered man on the floor, a scene that looked like it was straight out of a horror movie. The event with the so-called priest Freed, and the kind young man Issei whom turned out to be a devil, had kept being replayed in her mind. Asia quickly realized after Issei was forced to flee with his devil friends, that she couldn't let things end like they did. She wanted to see Issei again, yet those currently chasing her wouldn't allow it. Asia kept running, almost short out of breath, not daring to look back. As above in the sky were 2 fallen angels, Donazik and Middled, flying over her like vultures. Where do you think you are going, sister? Lady Rainare isn't finished with you yet. Middle taunted with a condescending look and chuckle at the nun's helpless attempt to flee. Just come back with us, we have no desire to kill you. Well, Lady Rainare told us not to kill you. Donazik smirked and joined in with Middle on the condescending chuckle, at Asia whom looked even more frightened and kept running. The 2 fallen angels humored themselves with this little game of tag. In an attempt to shake them off, Asia took a sharp turn into an alleyway, and the fallen angels flew past it and quickly turned back to continue the chase after her. You can't hide from us, little girl. Donazik flew after her along with Middled. Asia stumbled out from the alleyway, quickly picked herself up and kept running. She was running in the direction of a 2-story building apartment complex. Meanwhile, a young short petite man with messy dark hair and brown eyes wearing a black open shirt with a white baggy t-shirt underneath, and baggy black pants, unbeknown of the incoming danger, was taking out the trash. He whistled in a merry tune, enjoying the nice cool air of the night. He was brought out of his merry mood, however, as he heard a cry for help. Help me! Someone please! Asia begged as she ran from the fallen angels hovering over her. The petite man blinked for a second as he noticed the fallen angels. After taking a few seconds to grasp the situation, he panicked and hid away from sight. Fallen angels! Oh dear, what am I going to do? Why are they chasing after that nun? Is this some sort of trick to lure out devils? Or is she really in trouble? The young petite man uttered under his breath to himself, trembling while hearing Asia's pleas for help. The young man, despite shaking, gulped down this nervous feeling and quickly acted. He grabbed Asia as she took a sharp turn into a corner and quickly took her to his apartment on the 2nd floor. Managing to get her out of sight just before the fallen angels flew past the same corner. Where the hell did she go? Middle questioned while looking around with a raised brow at how the nun could suddenly just vanish. Donazik, however, noticed the lights turning off in one of the apartments on the 2nd floor. To which he gained a smirk and gave a light chuckle. Meanwhile, inside the apartment, the young man hid Asia inside of the closet in the corner of his tiny apartment. Oh okay, just stay hidden here for a bit, until they have LL left. the young man uttered, looking and sounding rather nervous with his stuttering and all. Which did not go unnoticed by the former nun. "Thank you, I am sorry to put you through something like this." Asia bowed her head in gratitude, and the young man responded with a nod, and closed the closet door. Then he yelped as he got spooked when suddenly his door busted open, and in entered the two fallen angels that looked down on the young man. He was barely close to even Middle's height, whom used her wings to fly a little over the floor. "Well, look what we have here. A little devil." DxD smirked as the young man was trembling before them. To which the two fallen angels smirked with confidence, looking down on the frightened little devil. "Tell me, where is the nun?" DxD bent down to the petite man's eye level, and sent him a glare. "And none? What are you talking about?" the young man uttered, playing clueless, to which the two fallen angels looked at each other and smirked. "We know she's here, and unless you want to die, you give us her." Middle levitated down to his eye level, speaking in a cutesy tone filled with malice, as she formed a spear of light within the palm of her right hand. Before the young man could pass out from fear, DxD halted his comrade in her tracks. "Now hang on, Middle. Listen, devil, I have a suggestion. How about we play a game? If you win, the nun can stay and you live. But if you lose, you die and we take her back with us, deal?" DxD suggested with a malicious smirk, as Middle seemed to get the idea of what her friend was suggesting, and deactivated the light spear. Slowly circling around the young devil and DxD while giggling at the frightened devil. "A game?" the young man questioned with a surprised and a little relieved look on his face. "In games I can actually win, it would be for the best, I can't fight them now anyway." The young man thought and rolled up his sleeve, with a burning look of determination. "Okay, I will do it. But you have to promise that when I win, you let her go, and you spare our lives." "Heh, why certainly, but only if you win. The game is a sparring match, we will fight," DxD declared, and the young man paled so much that he resembled a statue. He dropped the end of his rolled up sleeve, to which it fell down over his arm, followed with him gaping. What happens if I don't play?" the young man questioned nervously as he began sweating bullets. "You die, and we take her," DxD replied, and the young man froze while shaking, reflecting over his options for a short second. I will do it," the young man uttered, seeing no way out of this, and DxD grinned before slapping him on the back and knocking him over. "That's the spirit. Now let's get started." DxD formed a spear of light within the palm of his hand. Either excited to torture the poor devil, or just excited to fight. DxD, I think you knocked him out cold," Middle said, and they looked down at him with a raised brow each, staring at the unconscious form of the young petite devil. "Huh, I only gave him a light tap. Guess I will wait until he wakes up before we start our fight," DxD declared, deactivating his light spear, to which Middle looked annoyed. "Oh, just kill him already. This is just a waste of time." Middle sighed, finding DxD's honorable warrior-like personality to be annoying. "Middle, I am a warrior. I have a code, that I will only kill my opponent while they are fighting. Even if my opponent is a devil. Besides, it's much more fun to kill them when they are awake. The only exception I have is if they don't want to fight back, then I will kill them no problem. However, this devil just agreed to fight. So, we will wait." DxD replied, and Middle, seeing there was no way she could convince her comrade of otherwise, jumped onto the young man's bed while taking some of his snacks and a magazine up from the floor. "Fine, we'll wait. And you are staying in there, little nun." Middle gave a devilish smirk as she looked at the closet, which contained a frightened and worried Asia. 4 hours had passed and the young man had yet to wake up, and Middle had eaten all his snacks and was getting bored. Strange, why hasn't he wakened up yet? DxD began looking annoyed as he stood tall over the unconscious sleeping devil. "Let's just kill him and be done with it." Middle sighed and stretched her arms, beginning to feel sleepy. No, I told you we will wait. DxD replied as the young man's body flinched a little. This, however, went unnoticed by DxD and Middle. DxD looked around the apartment, and only first now noticed something. Oh, what is this? A warhammer. DxD spotted a giant warhammer laying against the side of the wall in the corner of the apartment. It's magnificent, I think I will take it once I kill him. You know, as a trophy. Huh, wonder why a shrimp like him has that. Middle stared at the warhammer while eating a potato chip. Who cares? I'm taking it. DxD shrugged and reached out for the warhammer. However, both he and Middle froze at the sudden pressure building up around them. That warhammer is not meant to be touched by a filthy angel like you. A deep booming voice was heard. To which the fallen angel swiftly turned around to face the source of this voice. Both stared in bewilderment as the voice came from the young devil, having finally woken up and was standing tall. You are about to wish you had stayed home, luck doesn't seem to be on your side. The young man grew taller by the second, and buffer. What is this, Mr. Shy Devil finally gained some balls. Middle mockingly chuckled, not noticing the growth spurt. She widened her eyes, however, as it became more obvious when suddenly the young man's body grew in size, to the point where he was taller than DxD. His once petite body turned more muscular and his baggy clothes looked filled, and to be a little tight. This power. You are not a normal low-class devil, are you? DxD questioned, looking unfazed as he stood face to face with the young man. Indeed I am. However, I am no mere low-class devil. The young man dragged his hands through his dark hair, slicking it back with a single bang going over his forehead. I am one of the 7 deadly sins, the sin of sloth, name's Bob. The young man known as Bob declared while standing face to face with DxD and giving him an ice-cold stare. I'm about to put you to sleep. DxD flinched slightly at the mentioning of the 7 deadly sins. 7 deadly sins. Where have I heard that before? Middle questioned, not sure if she should be amazed at all. Although the name did sound familiar, but she couldn't bother trying to remember. The 7 deadly sins, the peerage of the strongest young devil, Itachi. DxD revealed to his comrade, not looking fazed by this discovery. While Middle on the other hand stared in a gap at this. She at least remembered that name, having heard it from not only gossip in the underworld, but from their boss as well, warning them not to approach him at any cost without backup. Now that my nap is over, how about you apologize for invading my home and eating all my snacks? Bob released a strong, powerful aura, putting a ton of pressure on his 2 unwanted guests. Heh, we apologize. Yeah, right, and how is someone like you going to make me? DxD laughed at that bold statement from Bob. Looking at Bob with a condescending look and chuckle. A devil was still a devil after all. There was no way someone as proud as DxD would grovel before one just like that. As DxD let out his malicious laughter, Bob simply smiled and joined in on the laughing. Then, however, Bob spun kicked DxD into his sides, knocking him down onto his knees. DxD looked astonished, not able to believe he was brought to his knees just like that. Like that? Bob replied, sending cold glares at them both, sending shivers down Middle's spine. He knocked down DxD in one strike. Impossible for a low-class devil. No, wait, his power is around mid-class now. Middle looked taken aback at this sudden turn of events. Although her shock didn't last long and she smirked. Looks like you get your challenge after all, DxD. DxD chuckled in agreement to Middle's statement. Heh, see. I told you this wasn't a waste of time. DxD got back up with a creepy smirk spread across his face. Don't think that we, the fallen angels, one of the 3 factions, can be defeated so easily. DxD, feeling all riled up, released his own aura. Naturally, otherwise this wouldn't entertain me in the slightest. Bob said with a lazy look on his face as he released his own aura that combined with Donazeek's, made the whole room shake. Asia, whom was still in the closet, looked amazed at the man who was helping her escape the fallen angels and return to Issei. Like Issei was at first, a stranger. A kind stranger helped her yet again, and what was more, he turned out to also be a devil. Creatures she had been taught her whole life were evil, yet she never believed that every devil could be evil. These last few days had proven her right on that. Now then, can we hurry this up? Bob cracked his knuckles, his lazy eyes looking at the eager Donazeek. Heh, don't underestimate me, devil scum. Donazeek smirked as he released all his power at once, and spread out his fallen angel wings. Small gushes of wind were sent through the room from Donazeek's power, to which Bob didn't look all that amazed, he just had a bored look on his face. You are going all out already? Middle questioned as she used her wings to cover her body from the gushes of wind blowing around the room, as well as from objects being sent flying around the room. To this Bob looked around at all the flying objects, messing up his apartment. Great, now I have to clean this mess up after I mop the floor with these losers. Bob sighed, earning him a death glare from Donazeek. Something about him tells me that I should destroy him, right here and now. So that's what I will do. Donazeek formed a sword out of light and swung it sideways towards Bob. Once it hit Bob's right arm, small shock waves were sent through the room and the windows shattered into pieces, and pieces of glass spread across the floor, along with the brilliant waves of light lighting up the whole apartment. Bob still looked unamazed and bored as he let out a sigh. Is that the best you can do? Bob questioned as the light sword had barely made a scratch on his right arm. Donazeek stared in utter disbelief, not even able to make a cut on Bob's arm with that strike. Impossible. 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 Donazeek had wide eyes of shock as his body started to tremble a little out of rage and frustration. No low-class devil should be resistant to my light. Like I said, I am no mere low-class. Bob said with his eyes narrowed at Donazeek, whom gritted his teeth in anger. I am one of the 7 deadly sins, the sin of sloth, name's Bob. Bob repeated his phrase from earlier. I will kill you. Donazeek shouted and began swinging the blade of light rapidly, and all he was able to do was cut through Bob's clothes and leaving a few scratches marks on his body. It looked like he had been merely scratched by a mere house cat. Middle backed up a little, looking in disbelief. This couldn't be happening, right? It was like a bad dream. Donazeek. Let's flee while we still can. We should bring Lady Rainare here, and Middle was about to suggest something that would hurt Donazeek's pride even further than his attempts to kill Bob. No. I am a warrior. I will finish my own battles. Donazeek declared and raised his light sword over his head. Then I believe it is my turn. Bob said and lazily brought his right hand behind his back with his palm directed at Donazeek, whose pupils shrank at what happened next. Bob released a powerful aura that made Donazeek seem like a petal standing before a mountain. The fallen angel trembled in fear, and instantly regretting his former statement, he lowered his arms, deactivating the sword of light. Please. I am sorry for the trouble we have caused, just let us leave. Donazeek stuttered as Bob's energy was beyond overwhelming. Bob's lazy eyes stared at Donazeek, feeling like he stared into his very soul. Yeah, I have changed my mind about that. You have greatly fouled my mood. Wait. Donazeek's pupils shrank in fear. The fear paralyzing his body, with the closest he came to moving being his body trembling. Here is a reminder. Don't poke the bear. Bob smirked as he pushed his palm towards Donazeek's chest. For a split second everything was silent, only the breeze of a wind blowing through the room. Grizzly claw. The very next moment, a powerful shockwave was sent blasting into Donazeek, whom vomited out a puddle of blood as he felt the shockwave dig into his gut. In a split second, Donazik was sent flying straight out through the apartment wall, leaving a large hole. Donazik! Middle shouted and quickly turned towards Bob with a light spear in her hand, but the moment when she turned around, Bob's fist was dug deep into her gut, making her vomit out blood as well. "Begone, fallen angel scum!" Bob uttered and sent Middle flying out the hole left by Donazik, and all that was heard was a loud thud followed by a crack. Bob walked over to the hole and looked out from it, seeing that in a park nearby, the ground was dug up, and laying up against a broken tree, was an unconscious Donazik with blood coming out from his gaping mouth, as well as a hole in his clothing where the shockwave struck along with a bruise mark. And Middle had landed a few feet away from Donazik, also knocked out with a trail of blood coming out from her lips, her lightless eyes looking astonished. They seemed to have had enough, and I was just about to show them how serious I could get in this state. Oh well, game over. Bob then turned towards the closet with the hiding nun. "You can come out now, it's safe." Thank you." Asia carefully stepped out from the closet looking worried about the tiny scratches on Bob's body, but he gave her a reassuring smile. "Do not worry about me, these are nothing but mere scratches. Now go, before more of them show up." Bob gave her a light pat on the head, to which Asia nodded and walked out of the door and gave one last bow of thanks before leaving. Bob waved as he saw the nun out, and then he sighed and turned towards the hole in his wall. "My landlord is going to kill me though." Bob lazily looked to the sky, seeing a third fallen angel having arrived. It was Kalwerner, her eyes looking astonished at the sight of a defeated Donazik and Middled. "This can't be," Kalwerner uttered as drops of sweat ran down her forehead. "Oi!" Bob called out to her, making the fallen angel flinch while forming a spear of light. Bob looked unamused and bored at Kalwerner, he merely increased the pressure around him while glaring at her. "Take your friends with you, and tell your boss to skip town. Or else, I will take you all down tonight." Bob threatened the trembling Kalwerner, whom snarled in anger over herself for feeling the sensation of fear from a mere reincarnated devil. Despite this, however, Kalwerner flew down to her defeated comrades. She held the unconscious Middled under her left arm, and held Donazik up with her right. "You've won for today, devil, but the war is not over," Kalwerner thought as she glared at Bob, and vanished through a dark portal. Bob lowered the pressure around him, and looked towards the running nun in the distance. Bob formed a magic circle in the palm of his hand, to which a hologram of Itachi appeared. "Captain," Bob greeted. "You know, you and Kurika are the only ones who call me that." Itachi sounded like he let out a humorous chuckle. The moment they all discovered the nickname Azazel and Surtsks had given their group, Bob and Kurika felt it appropriate to call Itachi captain rather than master. "So, what is it you wanted to talk about?" Itachi looked serious, able to see the strange unusual mess in Bob's room plus the giant hole in the wall. "Right, well, a lot happened, you see." Bob began explaining his little encounter with the former nun, and his little skirmish against two fallen angels. Meanwhile, at the old church in the hills outside of town, Donazik and Middled were thrown to the ground by Kalwerner right before Rainare. Donazik and Middled, having regained consciousness, weakly looked up to the disappointed stare of Rainare. "Well? What happened?" Rainare flared in a dangerous aura as she glared at her two subordinates. Lady Rainare, we're sorry but..." Middled uttered, flinching in fear at the glare given to her by Rainare. It was Donazik's fault. That stupid pride of his caused all this." Donazik clenched his fists, regretting not having killed Bob when he had the chance. "Is this true?" Rainare looked to Donazik, whom barely flinched and merely growled. "Yes, forgive me." Donazik uttered, his pride beyond shattered to pieces. "I was careless, I had no idea that devil would turn out to be." "Turn out to be, what?" Rainare glared down on Donazik, demanding answers for this failure. We encountered one of the 7 deadly sins. Seems their master, Itachi controls this town along with Rias Gremory. DxD reported, and the mood in the room shifted completely. He carefully looked up, seeing Rainere's eyes burning with anger at the mentioning of that name. Itachi and the 7 deadly sins. Rainere spoke in a pure venomous tone, seeming to hold a grudge towards the Citri heir. Lady Rainere, DxD unable to finish as Rainere with a swift move of her hand, sent a wave of light into DxD's right eye. Arg! DxD cried in pain, feeling like someone cut his eye with a knife. Blood pouring out from the cut that would without a doubt leave a scar. Enough, let that be a reminder to not fail again. Rainere turned around and walked towards the broken cross at the altar of this run-down old church. Seems I will need to take matters into my own hands. I refuse to let those devils get in the way of my plans. That girl is my last hope. Rainere set her sights on capturing the escaped former nun Asia Argentu. The very next morning started off unusual for Issei. Ever since what happened last night with Asia he's become more determined. Waking up early in the morning, and going on a basic training schedule he found online. He needed to get stronger, and save Asia. Who knows what that creep of a priest and those fallen angels are doing to her right now? Issei-san. A voice called out, to which Issei looked in shock while he did pull-ups on a bar at the playground. It was none other than Asia. The shock of seeing her caused Issei to let go and hit his chin onto the metal bar. Arg! Issei rubbed his chin, and Asia quickly ran over to him and began healing him. Are you alright? Asia asked, looking rather concerned. Why yeah, but, what are you doing here? Issei questioned, thinking she would be trapped in a dungeon or something. Asia then went on to explain how she escaped last night and got help from a nice guy who was a devil. And Issei's mind instantly went to thinking of Kiba, damn that Prince Charming. Issei decided to take a break from training, and showed Asia around town instead. It was practically a date, taking her out for lunch, going to the arcade, just having a fun time together. Then they wrapped things up by going to sit by a pond, and Asia began telling her story. She was considered to be saint with her powers to heal people. People would come to see her from far and wide, to get healed by her divine godlike power as they described it. Then one day, she wounded an injured man, although it was no man. It was a devil, and once word got out, she was branded a witch for having the ability to heal enemies of God. She was excommunicated from the church and lived alone, until hope returned in the form of a fallen angel offering her to do work for God once again. And about her desire to make a lot of friends, to which Issei declared that they are friends without hesitation. A touching story. Someone landed onto the water in the pond, smiling at the pair. Issei snarled and got defensive, seeing it was Yuma, or rather Rainere. Lady Rainere. Asia gasped, wondering how long she had been following her. Fallen angel. Issei snarled, feeling a mixture of anger, betrayal, and sad. Despite all this, Rainere was his first girlfriend. He still didn't know what to think of this situation. So, it's true, you've become a lowly reincarnated devil? Rainere asked with a look of disgust in her eyes. Why are you here, you fallen angel? Issei stepped in a defensive manner before Asia. Heh, for a low-class scum like you, to address me in such a manner. Oh well, I suppose I shall annihilate you if you insist on standing in my way. Rainere created a light spear within her hand, while Issei summoned forth his sacred gear, a red gauntlet on his left hand. Issei seemed proud of himself for being able to bring it out, although he was shut down as Rainere laughed at him. Just a twice critical? Really? My superior was way off the mark. An item that only doubles the user's power. Doubles my power. Issei looked in slight awe at that, even if Rainere dismissed it. I was told it was dangerous by my superiors, so I put up with that little act. I love you, please go out with me. Remember? Rainere spoke in the sweet tone Issei knew as Yuma, only to return to her condescending glare and tone of voice later. "Shut up. As a man I gotta protect my friend," Issei declared as his gauntlet let out a brilliant green light, followed by a mighty howl. "Boost. Pathetic." Rainare snarled and threw the light spear through Issei's gut, making him fall over to his knee in pain. "Issei-san." Asia rushed over to heal the wound in his gut, seeing it instantly beginning to heal him, with his lost flesh regrowing at radical speed. Rainare glared at the nun, and the rings that was twilight healing on her hands. "That power is meant to be used for us, not some low-life devil filth," Rainare harshly declared, to which the former nun glared at her. "I knew it, you were only after my power after all," Asia accused, to which Rainare appeared before them delivering a kick to Issei's chin, sending him flying. "If you come back with me, I shall offer you the favor of sparing this devil's life. Not a bad deal, right?" Rainare smirked down upon Asia, whom looked between the fallen Issei and Rainare. "Or maybe I should eradicate him here and now." Rainare generated angelic-like light within her hand. I will go." Asia accepted and went into Rainare's embrace. "Asia." Issei picked himself up and rushed towards them. "After tonight's ritual you will be free from any more pain and suffering. See you later, Issei-kun." Rainare giggled as she vanished with Asia in hand. Later that evening, Ito was getting scolded by Itachi for letting a client die, and then eating said client's corpse. "I'm sorry, be glad I didn't eat all of the guy." Ito playfully apologized to Itachi, whom gave her a stern glare. "You've always been a wild card, I won't deny that. But you've gone too far this time. As your master, I order you to repent yourself tonight. You shall aid in the Gremory group's task of clearing out that abandoned church of exorcists. We've received an all-clear signal from the higher-ups, and gotten permission to attack without triggering a war. And if I hear of any other incidents like this again, your punishment shall be severe." Itachi gave a threatening glare with his Sharingan, to which Ito just smirked, seeming a little excited even. "Yes. Understood," Ito said in a childlike voice while holding her hands up in a peace sign. "Good, Rias has already sent Kiba, Konako, and the rookie Issei to attack the church from the inside. She also said she would deal with any threats outside the church herself. That is all, now go," Itachi ordered, to which Ito stood up in a salute and went skipping out the room in a cheery mood. "I really don't trust her." Raven appeared from the shadows, looking at Ito as she vanished into the distance. "She is manipulative and cunning. But she is also no fool, she knows she cannot defeat me. Whatever she is planning, I won't let her succeed. She is my dearest servant after all," Itachi declared, wanting to actually help Ito live a good life, even if she herself didn't believe she could. Meanwhile, Issei, Kiba and Konako had gathered before the front entrance of the church. "By the way, Kiba, I wanted to thank you for coming along. Also for helping Asia last night." Issei thanked, although Kiba looked confused. "I have no idea what you are talking about." Kiba looked serious, and Issei gaped in confusion. Wait, Asia said she was helped by a male devil last night. I thought it must have been you," Issei explained, to which Kiba seemed to understand and gave a light chuckle, to which Issei looked even more confused. "It's not like we're the only devils in this town. Besides Rias, there are 2 other noble devils in this town. Each with their own set of peerage members," Kiba explained to Issei, whom looked taken aback that there were so many devils in this town. Making him wonder, just who helped Asia. Konako interrupted his train of thought, by kicking down the front door. "They know we're here," Konako said as inside the abandoned church awaited the stray exorcist from last night, Fried Selzen. "Yo. Yo. Yo. We meet again. I'm getting sentimental." Fried greeted his guests with a smile, and was met with a snarl from Issei. "You see, I never meet the same devil twice, so this is kinda new to me. I'm like super strong, so once I meet one of your kind, I kill them. That's why I'm pissed. About you devils hurting my pride. Fried licked his gun, with a glare of killer intent at the trio. Where is Asia, you bastard? Issei shouted, reading his sacred gear for combat. Oh, that slutty sister who fell for a devil's charm? She's at the underground ritual site, you can reach through that altar. Fried peeked to the altar behind him, and then turned to glare at Issei with a sadistic smirk. That is, if you can get past me. Then the battle began. While outside, Rias and Akeno had encountered the fallen angel trio of Donazik, Middlet, and Kalwerner. I was expecting Itachi to try, and that Bob. Yet it seems I will have to take my anger out on you. Lady Gremory. Donazik had an eye patch after having been punished by Rainare. I'm actually glad, this way I will get payback. Middlet declared while forming a spear of light. You insolent cocky devils shall all perish tonight. Kalwerner declared, angered at Rias after what Issei did to her. Akeno, if you would. Rias signaled to her queen, to which Akeno changed into a shrine-maid outfit, and created a barrier around them and the fallen angels. Now then. I shall punish you all. For hunting our clients, and for causing pain to my beloved servant. Rias declared, and with a flick of her finger, she created 3 softball-sized spheres of her destruction power. Hey, Donazik, this feels bad, like really bad. Middlet began growing nervous, not having recovered from the shock of their encounter with Bob. Donazik silently agreed with a cold sweat running down his face. Dust that bitch. Kalwerner shouted, to which all 3 of them threw light spears towards the Gremory princess. Rias again, merely flicked her fingers, to which her 3 destruction spheres began moving, and flew straight at the light spears. Huh? What the dash? Donazik and his companions looked in shock, as Rias' destruction spheres ate away at their light spears. The softball-sized destruction spheres then begin bouncing around the barrier walls and clobbering into the fallen angels. The speed from the spheres were too much for the fallen angels to keep up with, they were clobbered by them over and over again. One hit Donazik in the gut, causing him to cough up blood, then the sphere flew up, hitting his chin. Akeno stared in awe, never having seen the side of Rias before. When did Rias learn to have such good control over her demonic power? Akeno analyzed the bouncing destruction spheres, even if they moved like a blur to her sometimes, she was able to pick up on something. The sheer density within those spheres is incredible. To those fallen angels, it must be like getting clobbered by pure titanium-made softballs. Akeno watched as the clobbering of these destruction spheres quickly beat the fallen angel trio into submission on their knees. Pieces of their clothes, flesh, and skin having been burnt away. The spheres then levitated back to Rias' side. Rias grabbed one of the spheres and bounced it up and down like a basketball. So, do you still think you can win this? Rias smiled down upon the angered, beaten fallen angels. Back at the church, they had beaten Fried, whom was forced to run away. And now they had gone underground to confront Rainare. They were in a dark room filled with stray exorcists, and at the end of the room was Asia chained to a cross of some kind, and standing before her was Rainare. Welcome, devils. You are quite late. Rainare commented as Asia weakly looked up at Issei. The ritual is almost complete. Asia. Issei ignored Rainare's words and attempted to charge at her, only for their path to be blocked by the stray exorcists. I see, they are planning to steal her sacred gear. Kiba commented, trying to figure a way through these exorcists. Steal her sacred gear? What will happen to Asia? Issei instantly asked, afraid that he knew the answer, based on what knowledge he had of this kind of things happening in manga and anime. Well, she will die. Kiba commented with a regretful expression. Asia, will die. Issei stared in shock, seeing Asia screaming as out from her body came a glowing ball of green light, and then the light in her eyes disappeared and she hung her head down from exhaustion. The light was surrounding a pair of rings that was her sacred gear. Twilight healing is finally within my grasp. Rainare looked at the rings like if they were her salvation. A symbol of hope in her eyes was a symbol of despair in Issei's. Finally. Amen. Finally, we shall grant our wish. The feeling of shock in Issei was replaced by a feeling of agony. Asia. He called out to the passed out nun, and rushed towards her, the stray exorcist stepping aside while mocking him as he made his way through. With this, I can become a supreme fallen angel. Rainare smirked as she pushed the orb into her chest, her body releasing a mighty green aura. Don't give me that crap. Issei jumped up from the final step on the staircase, his fist raised at Rainare, whom effortlessly dodged and flew over him. I'll let you have the girl, not that it matters anyway. Rainare, with a flick of her finger, released the chains that held up Asia, to which she fell into Issei's arms. Asia, are you all right? Issei lightly shook her, until she weakly opened her emerald green eyes to look at him. Issei-san. You came. Asia, despite her situation, looked overjoyed that Issei was willing to come here and rescue her. Of course I did. You just rest up, you are going to be okay. Issei lifted her up, holding her bridal style while he glared up at Rainare. Yes. She weakly trembled and closed her eyes. Give her sacred gear back. Issei fumed as he glared at Rainare hovering above them. Heh, you're right. I had to lie to my superiors to carry out this plan. And I'm not going to give up on it. Rainare declared, looking dead serious about going through with this. You were my first girlfriend. I was going to cherish our relationship. Issei looked down, feeling like a fool for being tricked like that. Yeah, you were surprisingly innocent. It was actually kinda cute. Rainare snorted at Issei's words like they were nothing. Yuuma-chan. I really loved you. Those words caused Rainare to flinch and give a snarl at him. I carefully planned out our date to make it fantastic and everything. Yeah, true. Nothing could have gone wrong on that date. I'm sure Yuuma would have actually liked that. But to me, it made it freaking boring. Rainare looked slightly saddened by the mentioning of that name. Yuuma-chan. Issei merely uttered, thinking on the memories he had from his first date. Amano Yuuma, like I said when I thought you were going to die. Yuuma is the name of my beloved little sister, and Amano is merely a changed-up name from my little brother Aman. My two dearest siblings, taken away, killed. I shall let these exorcists finish you all off. I have a place I need to be. Rainare took off, flying towards the exit leading back up to the church. Get back here. Issei shouted and ran after her with Asia in his arms, although now the stray exorcists charged at him, Kiba and Konako. Hyuta-kun. We'll try and make a path for you. Go get that fallen angel. Kiba shouted, using a dual-wield blade to hold of 5 exorcists at once. While Konako delivered a spin kick into the heads of 3 other exorcists. Thanks, you guys. Issei ran up the stairs after Rainare. Issei-san. Asia weakly called out in his arms, diverting his attention to her. I'm glad to have met you. What are you saying? Just hold on. I'll introduce you to my friends. I'm sure they will be your friends too. They might be idiots, but they are good guys, I swear. So, just hang in there, okay? Issei tried to keep up a smile to lift up Asia's spirit. I wish I could have been born here, and meet you. Asia uttered before her eyes closed one final time, and she gave her last breath. Asia. Issei stopped running the moment he got back up to inside of the church. Where Rainare was about to exit through a hole in the ceiling, when she noticed Issei, silently carrying the dead nun and putting her down onto a church bench. Issei then turned to glare at her, tears streaming down from his eyes. You are not going anywhere. Issei snarled at Rainare, his left arm giving off a red light as he activated his sacred gear. Boost. I suppose I should finish what I started. Rainare smirked, just itching to finish off this devil trash once and for all. Meanwhile, downstairs, Kiba and Konako were being pushed into a corner by what looked like to be at least 50 stray exorcists. They readied themselves, although then everyone halted, feeling some rumbling around them. "What is this?" Kiba questioned, when suddenly Konako's ears perked and she dragged Kiba out of the way and leaped over the exorcists. As the wall where they once stood exploded, and out came a gigantic monster, sinking its giant fangs onto a few of the exorcists, splattering their blood everywhere. "Sup?" Out from the monster's head was Ito, her body naked and only covered by some bandages. She laughed as her monstrous Kakuja form shot out like a machine gun of crystal-like projectiles. The exorcists were gunned down by Ito's onslaught of attacks. "Ito." Kiba looked somewhat relieved that they had backup from one of the sins. Yet he also looked slightly disturbed at how she massacred the exorcists. "Oh well, a girl's gotta eat. Yo, little kitty, pretty boy. Don't you think your friend might need help up there?" Ito pointed up to the ceiling, to which both without hesitation ran to the top floor to aid Issei. Now that they were gone, Ito turned to face the exorcists, whom all flinched at seeing her piercing red ghoul eye. "Now then, thanks for the food." Ito playfully clapped her hands together, as her Kakuja let out a roar. Back up in the church, Rainare avoided Issei's attacks, although she couldn't help but be taken aback. This sudden explosion of emotions emitting from him, powered up his sacred gear much more than before. He was bursting with red and green energy, all from just his left hand. Useless. Rainare leaped over another punch from Issei, only to suddenly get body slammed in the back by Konako. Rainare gaped and hurled up blood from Konako's monstrous strength, and she was sent flying down towards Issei, whom slammed his fist right into her face. Rainare crashed into a few church benches, breaking them apart from the impact. "What happened to my soldiers?" Rainare gasped, seeing Kiba and Konako having arrived as well. "Let's just say you are not the only one with backup." Kiba had his sword directed at her neck, giving her an ice-cold stare. "Give that poor sister her sacred gear back." "Heh, the girl is dead. Even if I gave it back it wouldn't matter." Rainare blasted Kiba with a wave of light, sending him skidding backwards a little. "With this new power, all of you are nothing, you mere reincarnates," Rainare declared as her body released a green aura, healing any injury dealt to her. Meanwhile, out in the forest with Rias. Rias looked around, seeing Donazik laying underneath a broken tree, Middled laying in a bush, her body all bloodied and bruised up. While Kalwerner laid on the ground before Rias, her face planted into the dirt. And the three destruction spheres levitated around Rias in an elegant form. "Are all of you quite done?" "Gremory brat, once Lady Rainare gets here you are dead." Kalwerner snarled, yet Rias didn't seem to care. "I don't think so, she might have increased her powers a little from taking that sacred gear. But in the end, she will lose. Unfortunately, neither of you will get to see it," Rias declared as the three spheres grew in size. "Heh, that pervert is supposed to defeat her? You gotta be kidding me. She told us all about that pathetic little brat." Kalwerner laughed at the mentioning of Issei, knowing how Rainare played him for a fool. "Lady Rainare will become invincible once we complete stage 2 of our plan," Donazik declared, blasting the tree over him to pieces and picking himself back up. "Operation Fallen Arch will be completed, and neither of you can stop it," Middle declared, pushing her bloodied corpse up. "Oh? And what is Operation Fallen Arch?" Rias asked with a slight hint of curiosity in her tone. "Is it perhaps related to heaven's very own archangels?" "We ain't telling you anything, lady," Middle panted as she formed a light spear within her hand. "We will end you." Kalwerner hissed in anger while generating a sphere of light into her hands, gathering what energy she had. "We will complete our master's task," Donazik declared, creating dual swords of light into his hands. All of them had Rias and Akeno surrounded, Yet the two female devils didn't look worried. These fallen angels, do they not know it is pointless to fight Rias? Akeno thought to herself, looking at the spinning spheres, even if they grew in size their level of density did not change. When did you get this strong, Rias? Akeno looked to her master, whom crossed her arms together, to which the spheres began spinning around them faster. Checkmate. Rias uttered and swung her arms out to the side, as the fallen angels charged at her. The destruction spheres grew bigger than the fallen angels themselves, and swallowed them up whole. And all that was heard was 3 quick screams from within the spheres, before they were incinerated into nothingness. All that was left was a single black feather from each one of them. Back with Ito in the underground part of the church. The half-ghoul sat on a pile of dead exorcist, breaking an arm like a crab leg and then feasting on the red flesh, and drinking the blood. Ito looks to her blood-covered hand, proceeds to lick the blood off from her wrist, all the way up to her finger, which she sucked on for a bit. This should make up for that dead client. Itachi is so cute. Ito giggled, having the time of her life. Thinking he has control over me, just makes him so adorable. Or maybe he wants to trick me into thinking that. He's not only cute, but smart. One thing is for sure, I'm going to enjoy this little game of cat and mouse. The only question being, who is the cat and who is the mouse? Back upstairs, the fight had gone on a little. Kiba and Konako were able to push Rainare back, although no matter how much they injured her she would just heal herself. Issei, on the other hand, couldn't do anything. His fighting style was too simple, so Rainare just avoided every single attack he threw at her. Promotion. Rook. Issei let out a red glow, utilizing the ability of promotion Rias told him about just before they went on this rescue mission. Issei then went back into the fight, rushing at Rainare while she was holding off Kiba. Damn persistent brat. Rainare hissed and would fall back if it weren't for Konako blocking her path. She formed a second spear of light, and threw it at the incoming Issei. However, he blocked the spear using his red gauntlet while it increased his power once more. Damn, I wasn't sure if that would even work. Issei thought as he jumped at Rainare and threw a punch. When Rainare tried to catch his fist, she was overwhelmed by his increased rook strength and thus overpowered. This won't work. If it was just him this would be over and done already, but those two. They are the real problem. I need a distraction and run for it. Rainare thought, her eyes analyzing the room to find a way out, then her eyes landed on the dead Asia's corpse. That's it? Rainare grew a devilish smirk and threw a spear of light, that to Issei's surprise went right past him. Issei turned around and in shock seeing the spear was heading for Asia. Promotion Night. Issei used his enhanced night speed to get to Asia before the spear hit her. He managed to avoid her body getting incinerated, although instead the spear pierced right through his leg. Arg. Issei fell over in pain. Hyuta-kun. Kiba rushed to Issei while Konako alone had to hold Rainare off. I'm fine, don't you worry about me, pretty boy. Issei growled as he picked himself up, grabbing his hand onto the light spear, while ignoring the burning pain surging through his leg and hand. He gave a good pull and pulled the light spear out from his leg, to which blood gushed out from both ends. Impossible, he's a low class, he shouldn't be able to. Rainare looked in absolute shock at Issei's power growth and resolve. Compared to Asia's suffering, this is nothing. And you? You tried to incinerate her corpse. You dirty rotten bitch. I will kill you. Issei roared and his sacred gear responded to his feelings and exploded with power. Explosion. The gauntlet changed its shape, growing claws and covering his arm up to the elbow. A mid-class shockwave? No, even stronger. That sacred gear is supposed to be a mere twice critical, how can it? Rainare stared in shock, as Issei spread his devil bat wings. He then charged right at her. Rainare attempted to escape although was punched in the back by Konako. This is for Asia. Issei roared, his eyes flashing in a glint of green. And no wait. Rainare looked concerned and slightly afraid, as Issei slammed his fist right into her, sending her flying out the window. And Konako immediately jumped out after her, not letting her get away. You did a good job. Kiba supported up the weakened Issei. Yeah? Thanks. Issei panted, having exhausted himself. My, the boss man was right, you do show potential. Issei was taken a little aback at this new figure, his eyes landing onto the bandaged covered Ito. He noted that she was beautiful, with her green hair, and that curvy, slim, firm, small body. Ito, I am surprised to see you here. Rias walked in with Akeno accompanying her. Well, the big boss man thought you might need some help. Ito hummed as she held out an arm from one of the exorcists and began eating it, to which Issei looked shocked and disgusted. Her eye then flashed red, and Issei instantly realized what she was. That eye, she's a ghoul. Issei took a few steps back in shock, having heard of people getting mauled and attacked by ghouls. She is half ghoul and a reincarnated devil like us. Kiba explained it to Issei, whom looked less freaked out now. Well, I guess I'm okay with it. She seems to be on our side anyway. Besides, can't be that different from having devils and fallen angels around. Issei thought, as due to his new devil life he viewed things like this in a new light, so to speak. Baku, I brought her. Konako walked in, dragging Rainare's body with her, and threw her down before Rias. Greetings, fallen angel, I am Rias Gremory. Rias went on to introduce herself, and Rainare glared up at her in anger. So, you're the heiress of the Gremory family. Rainare hissed at Rias, her eyes filled with nothing but hatred. Nice to meet you, though it won't be for long. Rias dropped down from her hand the 3 black feathers that remained Rainare's friends. I blasted away your 3 friends. Blasted away? Issei questioned. Baku is known as the crimson-haired ruin princess, or rather princess of destruction. Kiba explained their master's title to Issei, whom looked amazed. I never knew I was serving someone so awesome. Damn, does that mean I won't get to eat a fallen angel? Guess I will take my leave. Ito ate what remained of the arm, and threw the bone to the side. See ya, Crimson Princess. Ito waved off as she took her leave. Rias didn't say a word, and merely let Ito go, while keeping her focus on Rainare. You see, when Issei here was attacked, me and my comrades knew there was something going on in this town, and we did a little bit of investigating. Once we knew what you were up to, and that you caused so much trouble for us, we decided to eradicate you. Rias then looked towards her servant, noticing Issei's sacred gear having changed its shape since she last saw it. I see, just like Itachi and I suspected. Damn that brat. Rainare hissed under her breath, although it didn't go unnoticed by Rainare. I heard you called his sacred gear a mere twice critical earlier, correct? You couldn't have been more mistaken. Rias revealed, to which Rainare raised her brow in confusion. The Red Dragon. Issei Hyuda wields a sacred gear, famously known to double its holder's power every 10 seconds. Allowing any who master it to possess power that surpasses even the form or even God for a short period of time. It's one of the 13 long Inus, the gauntlet of the Red Dragon Emperor, boosted gear. A kid like him, has that ominous sacred gear, no wonder his power kept growing. Rainare uttered as a look of fear overcame her. Since it takes a long time to power up, it is not invincible. Had it not been for you underestimating him, and for you Otto and Konako, you might have won. Begone now, fallen angel. Ria stared down upon Rainare, however she looked in disgust as she changed her appearance back to that of Amano Yuma. Issei-kun. Help me. I said mean things, but I had no choice. Rainare pleaded in the sweet gentle tone of Yuma. Yuma-chan. For a moment Issei was lost. It didn't take long however for him to regain his sense. Look, I still have this. It's proof of what I said. Rainare held her hand up showing the pink frilly wristband Issei gave to her on their date. You remember this, right? You bought it for me. She forced out tears, while Issei looked down on her in pity. You are so. Bucko, please. Issei walked away, not able to bear looking Rainare or rather Yuma in the eye. With the desperate attempt to seduce Issei to help her having failed, Rainare attempted to crawl away, as the Gremory heiress approached her with a dangerous look in her eyes. Angered at this fallen angel's attempt to toy with her servant's feelings like that. As death was mere moments away, Rainare couldn't help but reflect on her past, her younger brother and sister. Amen. Yuma. Flashback. My sister, Yuma, was as innocent as they come. If it weren't for our parents being fallen angels, she would probably be a normal angel. She was weak, feeble, unable to even hurt fly. She was just a sweet young little girl. A memory surfaced in Rainare's mind, a memory that was probably the last time she was truly happy. Big sis. I made this for you. A cherry young black-haired girl with violet eyes, dressed in a pure white summer dress with a pair of small fallen angel wings sticking out from her back. Looking no older than 14, and also looking like a smaller, sweeter version of her sister. Her pure smile looked up at Rainare while holding a crown made out of flowers. Rainare stared bewildered at the flower crown. She wasn't sure how to react considering Donazik, Middlet, and Kalwerner were right behind her. Thank you, Yuma. Rainare mumbled with a faint blush from hearing her comrades struggling holding back their laughter. Yuma cheerfully giggled as she wrapped her arms around Rainare's neck, placing the flower crown over her head. Big sis almost looks like a princess. If only you would dress nicer. Yuma commented on Rainare's standard BDSM outfit, while keeping a straight face to which Donazik, Middlet, and Kalwerner couldn't hold it in anymore and busted out laughing. Little brat, I'll teach you to mock me. Rainare teasingly said as she pinched Yuma's cheeks. Ouch. Big sis, I'm sorry. Yuma cried out, to which Rainare let go of her and grabbed her in a headlock while roughing up her hair. And they both enjoyed a friendly laughter. Heh, I must say. She has you spinning around her little finger. A new figure appeared, chuckling in amusement at the two sisters. Big bro Amen. Yuma cheered and ran over to her brother. A tall muscular-built man with short black spiky hair, and a tiny ponytail in the back. With matching violet eyes like his sister's. And he had 6 black fallen angel wings sticking out from his back. Hey Yuma, are you being good to big sis? Amen patted Yuma on the head as she hugged him. Big sis is fun teasing. Yuma beamed with a smile, to which Rainare made a mental note that the girl might not be that innocent after all. Oh, big bro, I made something for you as well. Yuma signaled with her hand for Amen to kneel down, which he complied with, and a crown of flowers was placed onto the top of his head. Now you and big sis match. Thank you, Yuma. Amen smiled and wore it with pride. Heck, after this conversation he went off into battle wearing that thing, and came back with it still on. That moment, however, was the last happy moment Rainare would experience in her life. The scene shifted with Amen, Rainare, Donazik, Middlet, and Kalwerner breaking down a door to some abandoned house in the underworld. Finding the dead Yuma, with the moonlight shining upon her corpse through the cracks in the ceiling, Rainare began hyperventilating and then she fell to her knees, crying her heart out. Amen embraced her in a hug, shedding tears of his own. After analyzing her body, they were able to discover she had been raped and killed by a devil. One of noble birth most likely, since the investigation went cold like someone had paid off the investigators. From that day on, there was only Rainare and Amen left. My brother Amen was a prodigy amongst us fallen angels. His variability with light was so great, he could incinerate any lower-level devils by them merely being in his presence. He was considered the strongest fallen angel of our generation, and therefore quickly rose up in the ranks of the Grigori. And especially in Cockabille's faction, becoming his very right-hand man whilst also earning the nickname Angel of Death, while all I could do was stand at the side watching my younger brother's career growing with pride. Images of the so-called Angel of Death flashed by in Rainere's mind, the sight of fear in Devil's eyes as Amun entered the battlefield. The bright light emitting from his body like the sun. Rainere fondly recalled the powerful image Amun brought with him wherever he went. What's more, even though Amun hated devils for what happened to Yuuma, an image of Amun disposing of a group of devils in a quick and painless manner flashed in Rainere's mind. He always stayed true to hating violence, and ended his enemies quickly and painlessly. He truly was loyal to the cause Cockabille had laid out for him, yet at the same time such a gentle soul. He even went through great lengths to protect me, even if it meant shaming himself. About 4 years ago, a mere few weeks after the death of Yuuma, within Devil territory in the underworld, a little village was engulfed in flames. Flying in the skies above, were a small group of fallen angels throwing their spears of light onto the village, killing any devil they could see. This small group of fallen angel rebels was led by Rainere. Annihilate these devil filths. Rainere gave a malicious smirk as her spear of light hit an armored devil guard through the chest. Finally, some fighting competition. Come on. We'll finish what our leaders were too afraid to finish back in the war. A young male fallen angel tackled an armored devil guard and blasted him with a wave of light. You fallen angel scum, do you have any idea on who you are attacking? A devil guard wielding a trident deflected a spear of light, and more guards began to appear to take down these attackers. A devil is a devil, no matter what their names are. Rainere span in the air elegantly over the guard, and cut him down the middle with a sword of light. The guard looked stunned, as suddenly blood came gushing out from him as his body split in half right down the middle. In the name of my beloved sister Yuuma, I will slay all of you devil trash. Rainere flinched, sensing someone approaching from behind. She instantly created a spear of light, stabbing the intruder with her back turned. The devil guard behind her gasped, causing a satisfied smirk to creep up on her face. Then, however, her satisfaction was taken away as the guard began to chuckle. You fools, you're all dead. Rainere turned her head to the side, casting a glance at the devil guard. Infiltrating Citrai territory is the biggest mistake you've ever made. This land in under the protection of the great Citrai family. Heh, I don't care. You devils are selfish after all, why would some noble family care about you weaklings? Rainere smirked, expanding her spear of light, causing the guard to be erased from existence. Now then, to continue my thirst of vengeance upon this village. Rainere and her fallen angel companions had wiped out the guards defending the village, and now turned to annihilate what remained of it. The sound of flapping wings, however, stopped them, and the sensation of multiple more guards having arrived. Huh? They never learn, do they? No matter how many of you weaklings come, you will all perish just the same. Rainere and her cocky friends turned around to greet their new challenge, although nothing could have prepared them for this. An armada of lower devil guards having surrounded them, and floating in front a single young devil releasing an intense feeling of demonic power. So, these are the foolish fallen angels infiltrating my family's territory. How unlucky for you all to attack when I am on patrol. Your family? A young fallen angel questioned. Who in the hell are you? Rainere snarled at this devil, sweating from this sensation of power. Her body unable to stop the trembling from this intense aura released from one devil. What is this tremendous aura coming from him? It's like hell has frozen over. Pay, manners fallen filth. You are in the presence of greatness. The mighty younger brother of Lady Seraphal Levi then. Once Behemoth spoke those words, a chilling sensation ran down the fallen angels' spines, most looking in fear or disbelief at that statement. I am the current heir of the mighty Citrai family, ranked prince. I am Itachi Citrai, the strongest devil of my generation. Itachi stared down on the fallen angels, his sherinan blazing crimson red, and him dressed in a long black elegant coat of a noble, decorated with bright blue lines and the emblem of the Satrai family on the right chest side. Wasting no time, Rainare and her group of rebels threw light spears towards the noble devil. Although, without even flinching, the spears were deflected by a blue magic circle appearing out of nowhere. A magic circle? I didn't even sense him preparing one. Rainare stared in shock, as suddenly a blizzard wave of snow blew around her and her comrades. Last chance, flee while your lives are still intact. Itachi had merely pointed his finger towards them to unleash this blizzard. The fallen angels were also overwhelmed by the other two powerful beings standing next to Itachi. Leviathan's own right hand and left hand, Behemoth, and Asteth standing by Itachi's side. Don't be soft on them, young master, eradicate these ingrates already. Behemoth urged the young Satrier, who merely looked upon the fallen angels in pity. Teach them a lesson. Asteth also urged for Itachi to finish them off. Don't underestimate us. Rainare shouted and charged up the biggest light spear she could manage, and threw it at Itachi, and her comrades soon joined in. Very well then. Itachi held his whole hand out, to which the flakes of snow turned into ice. A chilling sensation filled the very air, as one by one the fallen angels were frozen into a solid block of ice and shattered instantly. What? Rainare looked in fear as the light spear in her hand had frozen into solid ice. She flew backwards to gain enough distance between her and Itachi and avoid getting frozen into ice like her comrades. To be honest, I don't enjoy this. Fighting, killing, nothing of this brings joy to my heart. Leave this place and never return. Itachi looked at Rainare with an emotionless gaze, to which with that statement only made her angrier. An image of her younger sister appeared in her mind, and the memory of the news of her death at the possible hands of a noble young devil. Don't you fucking talk to me. Rainare, blinded by rage, kept throwing light spear after light spear, only for the spears to be frozen and shattered long before they even reached Itachi. It's futile to fight me. Unless you have a death wish, leave. Itachi's words only added more fuel to the fire that was Rainare's anger. Itachi, seeing this, knew there was no other way around this. He increased the range of his blizzard. Rainare's body started feeling cold, unable to move an inch. She only stared in disbelief. No, I can't die here, I haven't even avenged Yuma yet. Rainare looked in horror as she was inching near death's door. Yuma. Amen. Rainare actually shed a tear, although then a warm sensation embraced her as the blizzard was blown back by a mighty wave of light. The lower devil guards were reduced to dust just being in the presence of this aura of light. Itachi, Asteth, and Behemoth, being the only ones left, stared in utter disbelief. Itachi looked down, relieved seeing the village being out of range from this aura of light, meaning the villagers were fine. Itachi then looked up to see the source of this light that countered his own demonic power, and erased the devil guards in an instant. A source of angelic light able to match my demonic power, who are you? Itachi looks to the source of the person emitting this powerful aura of light. Revealing a six-winged muscular fallen angel with black spiky hair and a tiny ponytail on the back, dressed in black armor. Amen. Rainare looks up to her younger brother, whom embraced her in his big strong arms. Yet Amen's violet eyes are only focused upon Itachi, also surprised that a young devil, even noble, was able to match his angelic power of light with demonic power of all things. I am Amen, the strongest fallen angel of my generation. Please, I ask that you forgive my older sister for her foolish behavior. Rainare looked taken aback and a little outraged that Amen pleaded for forgiveness in her stead. That's a little odd of you to say, seeing as you eradicated those guards earlier. Itachi pointed out, to which Amen bowed his head to him. Forgive me, I had no time to think. I had to save my beloved older sister. As someone who has siblings himself, I'm sure you could understand what it's like. Amen attempted to apply to Itachi's love of his own sisters to spare Rainare and let them leave. Besides, today both sides lost people. There is no need for any further bloodshed. Your sister was the aggressor in this case. She caused this bloodshed, she must pay for it. Behemoth coldly stated as he and Asdeath got ready to fight Amun for Itachi. Yes, you are correct on that. But please, she's not in her right state of mind. We recently lost our youngest sister at the hands of a devil. Amun pleaded, to which Itachi flinched a little, feeling some sympathy, but not enough to forgive this action. I can feel it, you are also angry. In fact, I could see hatred in your eyes earlier. Itachi thought back on when Amun arrived to Raineray's rescue, and glared at Itachi. Indeed, I am angry at devils, just as much as my sister. However, even I know not to fight pointless battles. Amun noted that he might not be able to even defeat Itachi single-handedly, and with Behemoth and Asdeath here, defeat was guaranteed for him and Raineray if they fought them now. Very well, leave. Although know this, if either one of you attack a territory under my family's protection again, there will be no mercy next time. Itachi held a somewhat respect for this Amun, not just for his power but for his mindset. He was someone Itachi could respect as a potential enemy. I thank you for showing mercy to us today. I pray this will be the last time our paths cross. Amun, despite his words, cast a glare at the devils, before he and Raineray flew off back into fallen angel territory. 36 fallen angels and 40 devils died that day. Raineray clicked her tongue in anger. That noble filth, who does he think he is? Making you bow your head to him. Raineray was angry at Itachi, for having humiliated her proud younger brother like that. If you weren't so foolish, this wouldn't have happened. Amun scolded as they just flew past devil territory and back into fallen angel territory. You caused the lives of 36 of our own brethren, and for what? Hoping to find the devil that killed Yuma. I'm sorry, I just miss her so much. She was just so weak, and innocent, she didn't deserve this. Raineray trembled, her tears falling onto Amun's shoulder, whom gently patted her head. I know, but please, trust me. We will find out who killed her. So, don't do anything foolish like that again. I couldn't bear losing you as well. Amun comforted his crying, broken sister. The same goes for me. Raineray sobbed. Flashback end. Raineray still weakly crawled away from the devils behind her, looking to the door, desperate to escape her fate. She gurgled up some blood, and kept crawling. She couldn't die, not now. Amun. Amun. She cried out within her mind as she reached her hand out towards the open door. Flashback, last year, the battle against Trigon. Raineray was hiding behind a pillar of the ruined Kua Academy, panting while peeking from the corner, eyeing the monster of purgatory, Trigon exterminating a group of devils, angels, and fallen angels. Stay down, sis, I will distract him and you run for it. Amun patted her back, and sprinted out from hiding, charging at Trigon. Amun charged up a gigantic light spear, lighting up even the town beyond the barrier surrounding the academy. Amun let out a war cry as he tossed the massive light spear into the unexpecting Trigon. However, in a mere instant the wave of light turned into a speck of darkness, the light dying away, leaving a stun taken aback Amun and Raineray. Amun. Raineray stared, hyperventilating, worried about her brother's safety. She looked around, seeing devils and angels around fighting off Trigon's demons, some looking to Amun and ignoring his situation. Help him, help him. This is your fight, devils, help him. Raineray, despite trembling, created a spear of light within her hand, sweat pouring down her forehead, fearing death. Raineray was then overcome by a familiar aura. She looked to her side, seeing the young Satrier Itachi, freezing a few of Trigon's demons in ice. She couldn't believe it, the Satrier was the only one near capable of helping her brother. She looked from the corner of her eye, seeing Trigon beating on her brother. Damn it! Raineray swallowed down her pride and hatred for devils, all in order to save her brother. Help! Rainare shouted from the top of her lungs, earning Itachi's attention as he flinched. She saw Itachi looking at Amon, looking like he was about to jump in. Although a part of the academy collapsed, falling between Itachi and Amon. And as Itachi was about to jump over, more demons surrounded Itachi, pushing him back. Although by the time Itachi had killed them it was too late. Trigon had blasted a hole through Amon's gut with a demonic sphere of energy. Rainare gaped in disbelief, her pupils shrinking and her eyes getting watery. No! Rainare shrieked in horror, seeing her brother fall over into a puddle of his own blood. Trigon, distracted by the approaching presences of more devils, fallen angels, and not to mention Behemoth and Esteth. To which the Lord of Purgatory vanished, so that Rainare could fly over to Amon's body. She held his body in her arms, tears running down her face. Sorry. I got careless. Amon weakly smiled with blood dripping down from his lips. Amon, hang in there. We're going to get you help, you are going to be okay. Rainare cried as she saw the light in her brother's eyes vanish little by little. You can't die, we're supposed to find Uma's killer. Why you can't leave me? She whimpered, tightening her hold on him. Forgive me. Amon slowly closed his eyes, to which Rainare's cries echoed through the battlefield. After the battle, Rainare had taken Amon's body away to their master Kakabile. Cursing the devils, and Itachi, blaming them for bringing in Amon and the fallen angels to help the devils fix their mistakes. This wasn't their battle, and the last person she ever cared about died because of it. The location changed into Kakabile's castle. It had been a few hours since the battle against Trigon, and Rainare was kneeling before Kakabile. This truly is a tragic day for us, my dear. I've lost a good friend and a valued soldier. While you have lost your dearest brother. I'm truly sorry about all this. If only Azazel had trusted me enough, I could have been there to prevent this tragedy. Kakabile comforted, his words, although sounding sincere, were dripped in venom. He put his hand upon the kneeling silent Rainare in a comforting way. Is there really nothing I can do? Rainare had hoped maybe Kakabile could revive Amon, having brought his body to him right after he got injured. Sadly, I don't possess any healing abilities. Kakabile hid a smirk at seeing Rainare flinch at that answer. Kakabile at the moment was merely trying to think of a way to use Rainare to proceed with his plans of war. Then he found one. Although, Kakabile added, to which Rainare peeked up with hope while Kakabile walked back towards his throne. I have heard of a certain nun, blessed with a sacred gear from our Lord himself that might help. A nun? Really? Rainare looked with hope. Ah yes, she is known as a saint in her town. Her name is Asia Argenta from my understanding. And she possesses the sacred gear known as Twilight Healing. Kakabile sat back into his throne, while Rainare stood up, taking a few steps towards Kakabile like he was her lord and savior. Then she can heal him. Her eyes beaming with hope. Maybe, although there is a problem. Kakabile added, and the hope in her eyes looked like it was snuffed out. Kakabile looked to his side, seeing a giant ice sculpture containing Amon with a doctor looking over him. I had him frozen to preserve him, in hopes there might be ways to wake him up. And although Twilight Healing might be our best option, sadly at her current level the nun will be unable to complete the task. Humans tend to almost never fully develop their sacred gears. And if she dies, well, we'll have to wait until a new wielder is born, and that could take decades. I will train her. I will force her to improve. Rainare boldly declared. There might be a quicker and easier way, my dear. Kakabile smirked, to which Rainare listened intensely. You see, for humans it is difficult to fully master a sacred gear without proper guidance. But, for us fallen angels, devils, and angels, it is a much simpler task. Are you suggesting that I? Rainare looked in slight disbelief. She is only one human, there are plenty more out there. and if you take the sacred gear for yourself, it could greatly benefit our faction. Cockabile put more fuel on the fire, piquing Rainere's interests even more. Just imagine, instead of standing on the sidelines watching your brother. With this sacred gear, you can be right next to him on the battlefield, aiding him, healing him. With Amon's power, and the power of Twilight healing, you would make an unstoppable team. The tempting words of Cockabile rang in Rainere's ears, tempting her more and more. And like a classic fallen angel, she fell into temptation. She looked up at Cockabile and gave a devilish-like smirk, which Cockabile returned. "I assume you agree." "Yes, Master Cockabile." Rainere bowed her head to him, to which Cockabile let out a pleased chuckle. Then the planning to get a hold of Asia began. And after a devil getting healed by the nun, the opportunity presented itself and everything was set into motion. Flashback end. Rainere crawled towards the exit of the church, desperately trying to stay alive. "Master Cockabile, save me, save me." Rainere called out as Rias walked up behind her, an aura of destruction gathering into her hand. "Your master won't come for you. And as punishment for attempting to seduce my servant, you shall face death. Begone." Rias coldly declared, and a bright flash of red light flashed inside the abandoned church. Issei closed his eyes from this blinding red light, and when he opened them again, Rainere was gone. Nothing more but her black feathers raining down around them, and the glowing orb that was Asia's sacred gear. "Shall we return it to her?" Ria smiled at Issei while holding the rings of Twilight healing in her hand. Thus, Rias decided to resurrect the nun into her peerage as her bishop. Much to Issei, and the newly revived Asia's joy. While watching them from afar was Ito, whom also smiled and made her leave to give a report to Itachi. Later that night, within the mansion, Itachi had just received the report from Ito, a little surprised over learning the identity of the leader of the fallen angel group that infiltrated their town. He never remembered her name, only her face, and her brother Amon. Then, as Itachi was in deep thought, Raven walked out from the elevator, entering the VIP room at the top floor of the mansion. Seeing Itachi staring out the window, awaiting the report of whatever remained of the fallen angels and stray exorcists within their territory. And if they had been driven out of town. Rias exterminated the fallen angels, and Ito killed the stray exorcist within that abandoned church. So far, only one is confirmed to have escaped, and that is Father Fried Selzen. We have familiars posted around town keeping an eye out for him. Raven reported. Good, now, time for a social call. If you would, Raven. Itachi closed his eyes, as Raven's magical aura embraced around him, covering him completely in darkness, and the next instant he vanished. Meanwhile, in the underworld deep within fallen angel territory, Cockabile scratched up his throne's armrests in frustration over Rainere and her group's failure. Veins bulging around his forehead, his rage boiling. Things don't always go as planned, huh? His door was kicked open, to which Cockabile glared in anger. I can speak from experience. This person was none other than Itachi Satrai. Well, to what do I owe this displeasure, younger brother of Sirafal Levi then? Cockabile tried to keep his cool, staring Itachi down with a threatening aura flaring around him. Let's not pretend, shall we? You know, I know you were behind this whole Rainere fiasco. And I must ask, really? You thought I would just let such lower-level fallen angels slip under my radar? I may not know what your plan was with Asia Argento's sacred gear, but I do know your plan has failed. Itachi flashed his own blue demonic aura, his Sharingan flickering in a blazing crimson red. Well then, what are you waiting for? Attack me. Strike me down while you still can, boy. Cockabile mocked with a sadistic, cruel smirk. Believe me, it would be rather easy. But you know, if I do that, I will trigger a war between our factions. Just like you want. So, I'm not going to do that. Itachi turned down the offer, to which Cockabile snorted. Then I shall do the honors. Crocodile created a spear of light aimed at Itachi, although the spear instantly froze into solid ice. Crocodile merely chuckled in amusement at this standoff. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to give you a warning. Itachi looked at the fallen angel leader with a threatening stare. If you ever step a foot within my territory, me and the 7 deadly sins will stop you. Crocodile clicked his tongue in anger, his aura causing the whole room to shake. Little cheeky devil brat. Know who you are speaking to. I assure you, appearances aside, I am far from being a normal child. Take this warning to heart, and don't come into my territory if you value your life. Itachi flared his own aura, making the floor beneath them crack from this intense pressure. You think you can threaten me? You should watch your mouth around me if you value your life. Crocodile grinned at his teeth in anger. Like I said, it's a warning. Your threat level pales in comparison to the likes of Trigon. You are nothing more but a mean old dog compared to him. So, make sure to behave. Itachi smirked, to which Crocodile snapped and threw a light spear at Itachi only for him to vanish in a mere instant. That punk, once Project Fallen Arch is complete, he won't be so overconfident. Crocodile sat back into his throne, taking in deep breaths to plan his next move. Back into the human world, in the VIP room of the massive mansion of the devils. Itachi appeared in the blink of an eye before Raven. So, how was it? Raven asked, although despite her emotionless expression Itachi could tell she already knew the answer. Like I said, it was just a mere social call. Itachi smiled, and then Itachi decided to turn in for the night.